Chapter 867. Do you really want to frame her? As soon as Fatso came out, he asked.
Yes.
Qin Feiyang nodded. Although over the years, they also got a lot of benefits from the hands of the mysterious lady. But the mysterious lady also accounted for a large part of the reason why he fell to this point today. So, he had to let this woman have a taste of what it was like to be framed. Indeed, she should also suffer. Fatso nodded and then smirked. When she receives the news, she will definitely be mad. Not necessarily. In this woman's eyes, maybe like the Mu family, the Scorpion tribe is just a small role. Forget it, there is nothing to talk about. You go to the East City Trading Pavilion now, and give the list of medicinal materials to Li He, Qin Feiyang said. Just to buy the medicinal materials of the 9-turn dragon blood pill and small creation pill?
Fatso asked.
Potential pill, 9-turn yellow dragon pills medicinal materials are also bought. These pills, although useless to us, are undoubtedly the treasures of heaven and earth for others. Qin Feiyang smiled. I understand. Fatso nodded. In addition, when making the list, you have to mix up the medicinal materials of these pills, so as not to be seen by Li He. Qin Feiyang warned. Do I need you to say this? Fatso rolled his eyes at him, opened a portal, and left. Qin Feiyang entered the alchemy room. His spiritual force emerged and continued to fuse with the alchemy fire. Time passed by little. Half an hour later, his spiritual force had not fused with the alchemy fire. After being burned by the alchemy fire for half an hour, his spiritual force was already very tired. However, the excitement on his face was hard to hide, because this meant that the alchemy fire here must be a 7th-grade alchemy fire. Using the 7th-grade alchemy fire to refine the small creation pill and the 9-turn dragon blood pill, he could refine 6 alchemy patterns. 6 alchemy patterns meant a 60% success rate. This was a big surprise for him. Another half an hour passed, and his spiritual force finally fused with the alchemy fire. A piece of information flowed into his mind. 7th-grade alchemy fire, white bone flame. However, after the pleasant surprise, Qin Feiyang frowned again. Just fusing the alchemy fire had consumed more than half of his mental energy. Wouldn't that be soon? At this rate, he reckoned that he wouldn't be able to refine many pills before his spiritual power was exhausted. Looks like my level 20 spiritual power is about to reach the bottleneck. Qin Feiyang mumbled. The duration of refining pills was closely related to the strength of one's mental strength. If, with his level 20 spiritual power, he could refine continuously for 10 days without stopping. If it was a level 10 spiritual power, he would only be able to continuously refine for 5 days before his spiritual power would be exhausted. In short, the stronger one's mental strength was, the longer it would take to refine pills. Of course, this was also related to the grade of the medicinal pill. The lower the grade of the pill, the less mental energy it required. On the contrary, the higher the grade, the more mental power one would need to consume during the refining process. In short, now, he had to think of a way to increase the strength of his mental strength. However, he had never heard of anything that could increase the strength of one's mental strength. My head hurts. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead and temporarily suppressed this thought. He sat cross-legged and recovered his mental strength. After his mental strength recovered, he took out dozens of medicinal herbs for the healing pill, concentrated for a moment, and began to refine pills. He had just fused with the white bone flame and knew nothing about it. As such, he didn't dare to refine the small creation pill and the 9-transformation dragon blood pill directly. After all, the medicinal herbs for these 2 pills were extremely precious. If they were accidentally ruined, his heart would bleed. Therefore, he first used the healing pill to familiarize himself with the white bone flame. Anyway, the healing pill was not worth much. It didn't matter how many were ruined. True enough, the level 7 alchemy fire was extremely difficult to control. The medicinal herbs for the healing pill were ruined one by one. It wasn't until Qin Feiyang's 10th attempt that he successfully refined a healing pill. It didn't disappoint, and 6 alchemy veins appeared. Immediately, he continued to refine pills. An hour passed. Qin Feiyang felt that he could already control the white bone flame. Therefore, he took out some medicinal herbs for the chi-gathering pill, battle chi pill, potential pill, and potential pill. In short, he had to refine all the pills that he had refined before. By doing so, he could have a deeper understanding of the white bone flame. Naturally, he could also train to have a more precise control of the white bone flame. This was the so-called practice makes perfect. Another half an hour passed. Qin Feiyang's body suddenly shook violently and fell to the ground. This was caused by excessive consumption of mental strength. He supported himself on the alchemy table with one hand and rubbed his head with the other. His face was full of disbelief. With his level 20 mental strength, he could only refine continuously for 2 hours? This was far beyond his expectations. Wasn't this consumption too terrifying? Swish. At this moment, Fatso appeared out of thin air in the alchemy room. Seeing Qin Feiyang's situation, he hurriedly went up to support Qin Feiyang and said in shock, "What's going on? Why are you so weak?" Qin Feiyang sat cross-legged on the ground and explained briefly, "Grade 7 pill fire?" Fatso looked at the white bone flame in surprise. Qin Feiyang asked, "How's the purchase of medicinal herbs?" Mentioning this matter, Fatso's face sank slightly. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Fatso said, "The medicinal herbs trading pavilion has all these, but not much." "Not much?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso said, "To be exact, it's very little." "That's impossible. No one in the Forgotten Continent knows how to refine these pills. How can there be no medicinal herbs?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "That's the main point. I've asked Li He. He said that every once in a while, someone will go and purchase these medicinal herbs, and it's a large purchase." Fatso said in a deep voice. "What?" Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up, his face full of shock. Why would someone purchase these medicinal herbs? Could it be that there are also people in the Forgotten Continent who have the pill formulas of these pills? But how is this possible? "Boss, Fat Lord, I have to remind you that you're not the only one who knows the pill formulas of these pills," Fatso said. "And?" Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso in surprise. Fatso said in a low voice, "Have you forgotten? The pill scripture that we obtained was left behind by Mu Tianyang." Boom. As soon as these words came out, Qin Feiyang was like a bolt from the blue, his body and mind trembling. That's right. The pill scripture was left behind by Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang naturally knew about it. Fat Lord has a bold guess. There should be a descendant of Mu Tianyang hiding in the Central Divine Kingdom. Otherwise, why would he purchase these medicinal herbs? Moreover, he doesn't want the medicinal herbs of other pills. Why would he only purchase the medicinal herbs of these few pills? Fatso said. Could it be that this Mu family is really related to Mu Tianyang? Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. Because the Mu family was the most suspicious. First, they were ridiculously strong. Second, they were not native to the Forgotten Continent. Third, Mu Qing entered the 9th level of Hell to find Lu Xingchen. And this was also the biggest suspicious point. Because, to go to the 9th level of Hell, one must first know the coordinates of the 9th level of Hell. And how did the Mu family know the coordinates of the 9th level of Hell? Qin Feiyang felt that the layers of fog in his heart were gradually dispersing. He waved his hand and took Yin Wei out of the castle. Qin Feiyang looked at the two and said in a deep voice, "From now on, don't do anything. Just focus on investigating the person who purchased the medicinal herbs." The two nodded. Fatso thought for a moment and asked, "If the Mu family is really Mu Tianyang's descendant, how do you plan to deal with them?" Back then, the ancestors of the Great Qin Empire destroyed the Tianyang Empire. Mu Tianyang will definitely not let it go. And if the Mu family is really Mu Tianyang's descendant, they will definitely make a comeback. Although the current emperor has wronged me, the blood of the Qin clan still flows in my body. I can settle the score with the current emperor, but I will not allow anyone to shake the Great Qin Empire. Qin Feiyang said. Every word was powerful and resolute. Fatso and the other two looked at each other. At this moment, Qin Feiyang exuded an amazing aura, like the return of a king, making people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Perhaps, this was Qin Feiyang's original temperament. Fatso nodded and said, "I understand. We will go now." "Wait. With your current strength, You can't control the overall situation. Wait for me to refine the 9 transformation dragon blood pill to strengthen Yin-Wei's strength. Then you can go. Qin Feiyang said and closed his eyes to recover his mental strength. Yin-Wei was stunned and turned to look at Fatso. He asked secretly, "What is the 9 transformation dragon blood pill?" "It's a kind of pill that can improve your strength by leaps and bounds." "You are in luck." Fatso laughed secretly. Yin-Wei's eyes lit up and couldn't help but look forward to it. If it was in the past, he would definitely not believe it. But now, with his deeper understanding, he knew that this was a group of people who could create miracles. There were way too many shining points in them. Anything that was impossible could become possible. Time passed quickly. Night was about to fall. Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes and the fatigue on his face was gone. Fatso ran to the elixir refinement platform excitedly and took out the herbs for the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. Qin Feiyang stood up and scanned them one by one, frowning. "Where's the dragon blood? I'm looking for it." Fatso rummaged through his universe bag and mumbled, "What's going on? Why can't I find it?" Qin Feiyang raised his brow. "Can't find it? What a joke." Dragon blood was the most important herb for the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. How could he refine it if he couldn't find it? "I really can't find it." Fatso frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang, asking, "Is it with you? Aren't you the one taking care of all these precious herbs?" Qin Feiyang said angrily, "That's right, but I don't have it with me. Could it have been stolen by a thief?" Fatso frowned and was extremely anxious. "Thief?" Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. If it was really stolen by a thief, he would have stolen Fatso's universe bag as well. How could he have only stolen the dragon blood? Qin Feiyang said, "Think about it carefully. Is there anywhere else?" This? Chapter 868. Hurry up, Qin Feiyang urged. In this era, dragon's blood was very rare. Even if you had power and influence, you wouldn't be able to get it. And those 10 drops of dragon's blood were exchanged from Sun to High with great difficulty. How could he lose such an important thing? This bastard was getting more and more unreliable. "I can't remember." A moment later, Fatso looked at Qin Feiyang timidly and shook his head. "You." Qin Feiyang was about to fly into a rage, but suddenly, he noticed that there was a hint of mockery in Fatso's eyes. "Are you playing with me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a sullen face, "Give me the Qinkuan bag. I'll look for it." "I really don't have it." Fatso panicked and hurriedly said, "Give it to me." Qin Feiyang's eyes became colder and colder, and his tone was inviolable. Fatso said aggrievedly, "Why don't you believe Fat Lord? When has Fat Lord ever lied to you?" "Still pretending? Are you asking for a beating?" Qin Feiyang's face darkened, and he slapped Fatso's head and said angrily, "Hurry up and take it out." Fatso shrunk his neck and said with an embarrassed smile, "You found out? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? Are you cut out to be an actor?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes, but in his heart, he approved of Fatso's acting skills very much. Because at the beginning, he was really scared. Because later, when Fatso saw that he believed him, he was a little complacent and revealed a flaw. Otherwise, he would still be in the dark. After being exposed by Qin Feiyang, Fatso looked quite embarrassed and obediently took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle was very small, about the size of a little finger, and half filled with blood. "If you do this again, don't blame me for being impolite." Qin Feiyang snatched the jade bottle and fiercely glared at Fatso. Then, he took out a drop of dragon blood and returned the jade bottle to Fatso. Then, he walked to the front of the pill furnace. "It's just a joke." "Seriously," Fatso mumbled, looking very wronged. When Yin-Wei heard this, he couldn't help but shake his head. He then turned to look at Qin Feiyang's back, his face full of anticipation. As for Qin Feiyang, he stood in front of the pill furnace. He didn't immediately open the furnace to refine the pills. Instead, he closed his eyes and calmed himself. Because it was his first time refining the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood Pill, he could not be careless. However, he wasn't too worried about it. According to the pill scripture, the difficulty of refining the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Pill and the Minor Creation Pill was about the same. With the experience of refining the small creation pill, as long as he was careful when refining the 9 revolution dragon blood pill, he should be able to succeed on his first try. Whoosh! Several hundred breaths passed. Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes. His entire body and mind had already entered the heart like still water state. Whoosh! Mental strength also emerged from the top of his head and rushed towards the white-boned flame. While Qin Feiyang was refining the 9 revolution dragon blood pill, in the first alchemy room of the second pagoda, a young man in black stood in the alchemy room, concentrating on refining the pills. This person was about 1.8 meters tall and was as straight as a pine tree. His black hair was like a waterfall, and his facial features were as sharp as knives. His entire body exuded a fierce aura. In the lounge of the alchemy room, a young man in white was pacing back and forth with an extremely gloomy face. It was Wu Yang. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. I've already given them enough face by personally inviting them. How dare they reject me? Brother Shan, if I don't vent my disgust, I will continue to feel uncomfortable. Wu Yang walked to the door of the alchemy room and looked at the young man in black. Elder Wu originally arranged for them to go to the first pagoda. They did nothing wrong. What's there to be angry about? The young man in black smiled faintly as he refined the pills. However, his eyes were shining with a fierce light. But by doing this, aren't they looking down on us? Wu Yang said angrily. They don't even care about Fu Anshan and the high priest of the Scorpio tribe, let alone us. All right, be quiet. Don't disturb me when I'm refining pills. The young man in black said. Wu Yang frowned and walked to the young man in black. He looked at the spiritual liquid floating in the furnace and asked suspiciously, "What kind of pill are you refining?" "You'll know later." The young man in black smiled mysteriously. A moment later, a dazzling pill flew out of the furnace. The young man in black reached out and grabbed it. What? Wu Yang was extremely curious. The young man in black opened his palm. This? Wu Yang looked at the pill in horror. The pill had 3 veins and was blood-red as if it was cast from flesh and blood. It also emitted an extremely strong smell of blood. It's okay. The young man in black smiled. Wu Yang swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty, "Brother Shan, aren't you afraid that the law enforcement elder will know that you're refining this pill?" The young man in black smiled faintly and said, "If you don't say it, I won't say it. Who will know? But the main tower has a rule that forbids refining this kind of pill. If someone finds out, it won't be as simple as being expelled from the pill pagoda. I'm afraid it will implicate our entire Qilin tribe." Wu Yang was worried. "Don't worry, I'm doing it secretly. No one will know." The young man in black smiled confidently and threw the pill into his mouth. A shocking scene appeared. After the young man in black took the pill, the aura emitted from his body became stronger. Although it wasn't obvious, it did exist. Did you see that? This is simply a divine pill. As long as I continue to take it, it won't be long before I can step into the Battle Saint realm. As he spoke, the young man in black couldn't help but clench his fists. His eyes were filled with desire. "Brother Shan, this pill is indeed good. It can make your strength increase by leaps and bounds, but it's really too dangerous. You must think twice." Wu Yang was extremely anxious and tried his best to persuade him. "Why are you so indecisive? Let me tell you, I'm not the only one who wants to take this pill. You have to take it too." The young man in black said in a deep voice. "This pill is refined from human flesh and blood. If you want me to take it, I can't do it." Wu Yang's face paled as he shook his head. "Trash. Don't you understand the principle of the strong preying on the weak? If you want to become stronger, you have to do whatever it takes. Moreover, I'm doing this for your own good. Once I break through to the Battle Saint realm and enter the sacred grounds, the position of king will be empty. And now, there are thousands of people in our second tower's 9 Star Wars sect. They have always coveted this position of king. And you are only an 8 Star Wars sect. If you don't take another shortcut, you won't be able to break through to the 9 Star Wars sect before I leave. Think about it. With your 8 Star Wars sect cultivation, how can you compete with them for the position of king?" The young man in black said. This, Wu Yang hesitated. "Brother, Although we are not blood brothers, we are all from the Chilean tribe. You have to be clear that I have no ill intentions towards you. You should also know that each of our 10 great tribes has 2 kings in the main tower. If you don't become the king of the second tower after I leave, then this balance will be broken. At that time, the disciples of our Chilean tribe will definitely be suppressed by the people of the other tribes. Therefore, the position of king of the second tower must be someone from my Chilean tribe. Do you understand? The young man in black said with a deep meaning. Wu Yang frowned and asked, Then when did you start to refine this kind of medicinal pill? 3 years ago. The young man in black said, It's been so long? Wu Yang was shocked. The young man in black laughed. No one has discovered me for 3 whole years. Am I doing it secretly?
Yes.
Wu Yang nodded and asked again, Then where do you usually go to look for prey? I definitely can't be in the Divine City, much less in the main tower. I always go outside the city to look for prey. Just keep your heart in your stomach. There are countless people in our central divine kingdom. There are people dying every day. No one will care. The young man in black smiled faintly. Wu Yang took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. That's right. The young man in black laughed and was very pleased. Wu Yang rubbed his head and smiled. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes and he said, If I have the chance, I will refine Ancestor Mu and Qin Day, those 2 bastards, into pills. Don't worry. Anything is possible. Let's go. We will go outside the city to look for prey now. The young man in black patted Wu Yang's shoulder and then opened a portal. The 2 of them walked in one after another. And this young man in black was none other than the king of the second tower, Wu Shan. First tower. Alchemy room number 10. Qin Feiyang had reached the most crucial step in refining the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. Spiritual liquid fusion. And from the beginning to the end, Fatso and Yin Wei did not say a word. Even their breathing was deliberately lowered to the lowest level, for fear of disturbing Qin Feiyang. In the alchemy furnace, under the control of Qin Feiyang's mental strength, drops of spiritual liquid continued to fuse. Everything was going smoothly. But just as all the spiritual liquid was about to be successfully fused, there was a sudden rush of knocking on the door. At that moment, the spiritual liquid in the alchemy furnace was in a mess. Boom. The next moment, there was a loud explosion in the alchemy room. Thick smoke rose and instantly covered the entire room. That bastard! Qin Feiyang's angry roar also sounded in the alchemy room. Whoosh! 2 figures rushed out of the alchemy room and stood outside the lounge. It was Fatso and Yin Wei. Both of them were also covered in dust at this moment, but the anger on their faces could not be concealed. Thud! Accompanied by a series of footsteps, Qin Feiyang also walked out of the alchemy room. The clothes on his body had become tattered and tattered. His hair was also a mess. His face was covered in black ash. He looked more miserable than Yin Wei and Fatso. With a gloomy face, he walked to the door of the alchemy room and opened the stone door. He saw Mu Qing standing at the door. Looking at Qin Feiyang's current appearance, Mu Qing was stunned. Haha, what are you doing? You actually ended up like this? This is too funny. Don't move. I want to record your current appearance and give it to your good friends to enjoy. Haha. Following closely, Mu Qing held her stomach and laughed. She was rocking back and forth and tears were coming out. Qin Feiyang's expression became more and more gloomy. Especially that gaze. It was as if he wanted to eat someone. A moment later, seeing that Qin Feiyang did not say a word, Mu Qing also felt bored. She stopped making fun of him and asked curiously, What's wrong? You still have the nerve to ask me what's wrong? There was no suspense. Qin Feiyang was furious. He dragged Mu Qing into the alchemy room and closed the stone door with a bang. Beat her up. I'll take responsibility if she dies. Next. Chapter 869. What's going on? One by one, the disciples walked out and looked at Qin Feiyang's alchemy room suspiciously. What's wrong? Mo Feng also opened the stone door and walked out. He looked at the disciples around him and asked, I don't know. Everyone shook their heads. Mo Feng, the moment these 2 people arrived, they caused a ruckus in the first tower. I really don't understand why you had to go out of your way to pick them up. Yeah, isn't it good to let them go to the second tower? Two young men in white said unhappily. Emofeng glanced at the two of them and said indifferently, "This is Senior Brother Pei Yi's arrangement. If you guys are not convinced, you can go look for him directly." We are not convinced. The top alchemy rooms have always been occupied by those who are capable. What ability do those two have? That's right. If their mental strength is stronger than ours, we have nothing to say. But according to our inquiries, they only have a level 10 mental strength, while we have a level 13 mental strength. I would like to ask, why should we give them alchemy rooms 9 and 10? The two young men in white said angrily. They were the original owners of room number 9 and 10. Not long ago, Pei asked Emofeng to look for them and asked them to give the alchemy room to Qin Feiyang and Emofeng. Due to Pei Yi's status in the first tower, they did not dare to disobey, but they had always been unhappy, especially when they heard that Qin Feiyang and Emofeng's mental strength was only at level 10, which was even worse than theirs. The resentment in their hearts grew stronger and stronger. Emofeng sized up the two of them with an extremely cold expression, and the two young men in white were stronger than Emofeng, 9 Star Wars sect. But facing the current Emofeng, they couldn't help but feel a trace of fear. Suddenly, Emofeng's eyes flashed and said, "If you guys are really unhappy, you can challenge them." "Really? You won't care?" The two young men in white were stunned and hurriedly asked. "I don't care. But in advance, you can't use despicable methods. They have to take the initiative to accept your challenge," Emofeng said. The two young men in white were overjoyed and couldn't wait to head to the 10th alchemy room. He thought, with their level 13 spiritual power, wouldn't it be easy for them to deal with 2 level 10 spiritual power practitioners? Dong! The two of them walked to the door and knocked hard. Inside the pill refining room, Fatso was beating up Mu Qing. As for Mu Qing, her eyes were already swollen, and her entire body was covered in injuries. She was in an extremely sorry state. However, until now, he still couldn't figure out why Qin Feiyang wanted to beat him up. Wait a moment. Hearing the knock on the door, Qin Feiyang glanced at Mu Qing expressionlessly. Then, he looked at Fatso and said something. He turned around and walked to the door, opening it slightly. The two white-clothed youths immediately entered his line of sight. "What's the matter?" Qin Feiyang coldly glanced at the two of them. The two of them stuck their heads out and looked behind Qin Feiyang. They wanted to see what was going on. However, Qin Feiyang was blocking the door so that they couldn't see anything. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked, "Is there a problem?" "Yes. We want to compete with you in alchemy. If we win, you have to return the pill refining room to us. If we lose, we won't disturb you anymore," the two of them said. Compete in alchemy? Qin Feiyang froze in shock. He looked past the two of them and happened to see Emofeng standing in the corridor opposite. Alchemy rooms number 9 and 10 used to belong to them. Senior Brother Pei asked them to give them to you. Now, they want to challenge you to take back the alchemy rooms. Of course, you can refuse. Emofeng secretly sent a voice transmission to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was suddenly enlightened. "There's one more thing that I think there's a need to tell you. Actually, it's just a pretense that they want to take back the alchemy rooms. Their real purpose is to target you and embarrass you. Because they're also from the Scorpion tribe," Emofeng said again, also secretly transmitting his voice. "The Scorpion tribe?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the two young men in white. "If you're still a man, don't back down and accept our challenge openly. Of course, if you refuse, we can't do anything to you. However, from now on, everyone in the Pill Pagoda will know that you're a spineless sissy." The two young men in white sneered. "Trying to provoke me? How childish." Qin Feiyang sneered inwardly. Without saying a word, he directly swung his hand and closed the stone door with a bang. The two young men in white froze and stood in front of the stone door, unable to recover from their shock for a long time. They thought that after being provoked by them, Qin Feiyang would definitely accept their challenge. However, they didn't expect the other party to ignore them at all. They felt that in the other party's eyes, they were like two clowns who were fooling around. "Bastard, what qualifications do you have to own alchemy room number 10? If you're still a man, Come out and accept our challenge. Don't be like a tortoise, hiding inside." The next moment, the two of them flew into a rage out of humiliation and cursed in the corridor like shrews. "Idiot." Mo Feng shook his head and turned to enter alchemy room number 3 without looking back. In fact, he also wanted Qin Feiyang to accept the challenge. This was because he was suspecting that Qin Feiyang's spiritual power of the 10th rank might also be an illusion. And he also had a purpose for telling Qin Feiyang the true identity of the two young men in white. In his opinion, the Scorpion tribe and Qin Feiyang had a deep grudge, and the two sides would definitely be at loggerheads. And when Qin Feiyang learned that the two were from the Scorpion tribe, he would definitely accept the challenge. However, he didn't expect that Qin Feiyang would not play by the rules at all and directly refuse. The two young men in white were still cursing and swearing, looking like they would not stop until they were dead. And the other disciples were also discussing unscrupulously. Some people said that Qin Feiyang had no guts. There were also people who said that Qin Feiyang was a person who relied on Lu Xingfeng to enter the main pagoda. There were even people who said that he was a useless waste from the beginning. But Qin Feiyang couldn't be bothered to pay attention to these, because with his current temperament, these words could no longer cause waves in his heart. In the alchemy room, "Who challenged you?" Fatso asked. "People from the Scorpion tribe." Qin Feiyang responded indifferently and looked down at Mu Qing, who was lying on the ground. "I'm telling you, if you don't make it clear today, I'm not done with you." Mu Qing gritted his teeth and stared at him. The pain from all over his body made his face distorted. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light and said, "Continue to beat him." "Okay." Fatso smiled, rubbed his hands, and walked towards Mu Qing. Seeing this, Mu Qing shrank his neck and quickly waved his hand. Don't, let's talk," Fatso said with a sneaky smile. "Then do you know you're wrong?" I'm wrong. I won't dare to do it again." Mu Qing nodded repeatedly, but suddenly frowned and said angrily, "That's not right. What did I do wrong?" "Look at the alchemy room," Fatso said. Mu Qing turned his head to look. The wall of the alchemy room was made of a transparent material, so the situation inside could be clearly seen. It was not until now that Mu Qing noticed that the alchemy room was shrouded in black smoke, and the air was filled with a burnt smell. Did the furnace explode? He was slightly stunned, and the anger in his heart also burned. He looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "Your furnace explodes. What does it have to do with me? Why did you beat me? If it weren't for you suddenly knocking on the door, would the furnace explode? Let me tell you, this time the boss is refining a very heaven-defying elixir. Even your Mu family can't afford it."
Fatso said angrily.
"Humph. In this world, there is nothing that my Mu family can't afford. Tell me, what kind of elixir? I'll compensate you 10 times. Mu Qing said. Fatso sneered. "Then listen carefully, 9. Shut up." But before Fatso said it, Qin Feiyang suddenly shouted. Fatso was stunned and immediately shut his mouth, and he felt lucky in his heart. If Qin Feiyang hadn't stopped him in time, he would have spilled the beans. Mu Qing glanced at the two, his eyes full of surprise. What kind of elixir actually made Qin Feiyang so vigilant? "Go and take out the fire phoenix cauldron." Qin Feiyang walked to the chair and sat on it. The anger on his face had not dissipated. "Okay." Fatso ran over, pushed open the door of the alchemy room, and soon ran out with the fire phoenix cauldron. But at this moment, the fire phoenix cauldron did not have the slightest light, and it looked very dim. Fatso put the fire phoenix cauldron on the ground. Qin Feiyang looked carefully for a moment and found that there was a very small crack somewhere in the fire phoenix cauldron. He couldn't help but feel a pain in his heart. Not only did he lose a 9 transformation dragon blood elixir, but he also wasted a 6th grade elixir furnace. This loss was too great. Fatso also noticed the crack, turned his head and stared at Mu Qing gloomily, and said, "Tell me, how are you going to compensate us for the loss?" "I'm telling you, don't go too far."
"Yes."
"I disturbed your alchemy and caused your cauldron to explode. It's my fault, but you also beat me up. Look at me now. It's good enough that I didn't settle the score with you, but you still want to ask me for compensation. How dare you ask for it?" Mu Qing sneered. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, "Continue to beat him up? Don't. I'll compensate. I'll compensate." Mu Qing's face turned pale, and he said hurriedly, "A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. He would deal with it first." Qin Feiyang smiled proudly and said, "I'm not greedy. Compensate me with a 6th-grade elixir furnace and a 6th-grade elixir fire, and I'll let this matter go." "What? 6th-grade elixir fire?" Mu Qing's face darkened, and he said angrily, "Do you think that 6th-grade elixir fire is cabbage that can be found everywhere? A 6th-grade elixir fire is indeed rare, but for a young master like you, it shouldn't be rare. If I'm not wrong, you should have it on you now," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Fatso rubbed his hands and laughed. "If you don't give it to us, you know the consequences. Don't use your identity as the young master of the Mu family to threaten us. It's useless." Mu Qing couldn't help but feel weak. His identity as the young master of the Mu family was enough to deter others, but for Qin Feiyang and his group, it was completely useless. "Blame it on my bad luck. I'll give it to you." He sighed helplessly, took out a jade box, and threw it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang caught it in his hand, opened it, and saw a beautiful flame lying quietly in the box. Chapter 870. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and his battle chi surged, instantly erasing the blood contract of the elixir fire. Mu Qing's body trembled, and blood spilled from the corner of her mouth. Putting the elixir fire back into the jade box, Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing and said, "Where's the furnace?" "The furnace that Emofeng gave me is still in the alchemy room. Go get it yourself." Mu Qing wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, gnashing her teeth and glaring at Qin Feiyang. "This bastard is simply a bandit. Don't look at me like that. Because even if you compensate me with a 6th-grade elixir fire, you can't make up for my loss. Hey, don't say that I bullied you. Here's a healing elixir for you. Hurry up and recover." Qin Feiyang took out a healing elixir with 6 veins and threw it to Mu Qing. You can already refine 6 veins?" Mu Qing looked at the healing elixir in shock. "How is it? Do you admire my boss very much?" Fatso said with a sneaky smile. "Humph." Mu Qing disdainfully raised her middle finger, took the healing elixir, got up and tidied her clothes. She looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Are you done?" Qin Feiyang said, "Are you ready to go to the Scorpion tribe? What do you think? I kindly asked you to go to the Scorpion tribe, but you beat me up without saying anything. Let me tell you, this is definitely not over." Mu Qing snorted coldly. "Anytime." Qin Feiyang sneered and said, "I'm going to refine another elixir. Go out and wait for me." Mu Qing's heart skipped a beat, and she said with an aggrieved face, "You beat me up. Why don't you let me take a look?" "Get out." Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold. "Fine, you win." Mu Qing glared at Fatso fiercely, waved her sleeves, and left angrily. Sigh, what a pity. After Mu Qing left, Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and walked into the alchemy room again. Then, with a wave of his hand, a gust of wind rose in the area, sweeping up all the black smoke and rushing out of the alchemy room. Next, Fatso ran up and closed the stone door. As for the 2 white-clothed youths, after cursing outside for a while, they probably felt bored and left. Yanwei stood at the door of the alchemy room and asked, "Do you want us to stand guard outside? You can't appear in the main tower. Otherwise, you will be investigated." "Fatso, give me the herbs," Qin Feiyang said. Fatso immediately ran into the alchemy room and took out a set of ingredients for the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Pill. Qin Feiyang also took out the Scorching Sun Cauldron and placed it on the pill refining platform. He closed his eyes and concentrated. Several hundred breaths passed. He slowly opened his eyes. There were no distracting thoughts in his clear eyes. Immediately after, he mobilized his mental force and once again opened the furnace to refine pills. With the experience of refining for the first time, Qin Feiyang was already familiar with the temperature of various medicinal herbs. The entire process went very smoothly without any accidents. More than 500 breaths passed. All the spirit liquids had finally been refined. The next step was to fuse them. "Please don't let anyone knock on the door again," Fatso secretly prayed. Yin Wei's heart was also in his throat. Ancestor Mu, don't be a tortoise, get out here. Let me tell you, if you don't accept our challenge, we will look for you every now and then, so that you won't be able to cultivate in peace. What he was afraid of came. The two white-clothed youths' arrogant voices sounded from outside again. Damn it! Fatso and Yin Wei's expressions changed as they hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang. However, they were surprised to find that Qin Feiyang was not affected. What was going on? The two of them looked at each other. Another 100 breaths passed. Whoosh! A blood-colored divine light suddenly flew out of the blazing sun cauldron. Qin Feiyang reached out and grabbed it. It worked? Fatso and Yin Wei looked at each other and hurriedly ran to Qin Feiyang's side, staring at Qin Feiyang's tightly clenched hands. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and slowly opened his palm. The 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir immediately entered their vision. The 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir was similar in size to other elixirs. It was blood-red in color, but did not have the slightest bloody aura. It was like a blood gem, emitting a hazy luster. The rich medicinal fragrance filled every corner of the elixir refinement room. Furthermore, this elixir even carried a faint dragon's might. The most eye-catching thing was the 6 elixir patterns. They were like 6 angelic halos that surrounded the elixir in a dazzling manner. Boss, why don't I try it first and see how effective it is? Fatso's eyes lit up and he drooled. He was not joking. That was because battle masters and battle sages could consume the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir. Why are you in such a hurry? With your current cultivation speed, you don't need to rely on the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir to increase your cultivation. Let's talk about it after you break through to the Battle Saint realm. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and directly handed the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir to Yin Wei. Yin Wei took the elixir and said, "Now, can you tell me what the use of this elixir is?" The effect of the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir is to increase the cultivation of battle masters and battle saints. In other words, as long as you consume it, you can instantly break through to the 9-star battle saint realm, Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. What? Yin Wei was dumbfounded. There was actually such an elixir in this world? However, whether you can successfully break through in the end depends on your luck. Because the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir with 6 elixir patterns only has a 60% chance, Qin Feiyang said again. A 60% chance is already very high. Yin Wei muttered, "Let's give it a try. Try your best to succeed in one go, so as not to waste any more 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixirs." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Yin Wei and Fatso into the castle. If he really succeeded, the aura of a 9-star battle saint would alarm everyone in the first tower. Therefore, breaking through inside the castle was the safest. Yin Wei looked at the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir, took a deep breath, quickly put it into his mouth, and then sat down cross-legged. It was a small elixir, but it contained an incomparably shocking amount of energy. Yin Wei felt it the most clearly. The moment the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir melted, the energy was like a torrent of beasts, crazily surging into his body. His 5 viscera, 6 bowels, 4 limbs, and hundreds of bones trembled under the impact of the energy. He felt that his body was about to explode. At the same time, he could also clearly feel that every cell in his body, every inch of his flesh and blood, was gradually transforming under the refinement of the energy. Time passed breath by breath. Yin Wei's pores slowly overflowed some black substance, emitting a foul smell. This was the impurities in his flesh and blood. His physical body was purer than before. His spirit and soul were also improving step by step, and his aura was also getting stronger. It seems that he should be able to succeed on his first try. Fatso muttered. Last time, when the double-winged snow eagle opened the 6th level of the Gate of Potential, the small creation elixir that only had 5 elixir veins was successfully opened. And now, the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir that Yin Wei took had 6 elixir veins. There was no reason for him to fail. Another dozen breaths passed. Yin Wei's aura had already climbed to the peak of an 8-star battle saint, half a step away from becoming a 9-star battle saint. But at this moment, his soaring aura suddenly slowed down. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. Was this a sign of failure? How could this be? Is the energy of the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir not enough? Fatso couldn't help but feel nervous. Old Yin, do your best. Yes, don't give up. Although it's a little slow, your aura is still rising. There's still a chance. Wolf King and the other beasts also started to cheer him on. Yes, the herbs for the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir are so hard to find. We can't give up so easily. We must succeed. Yin Wei roared in his heart, his hands tightly clenched together. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop the decline of his aura. Qin Feiyang frowned and decisively asked Fatso for another set of herbs for the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir. He left the ancient castle and started to refine the elixir again. The third refinement was even smoother than the second. In less than 200 breaths, he appeared in the ancient castle again. And at this moment, Yin Wei had already stopped breaking through. The aura all over his body had also fallen to its original level. He sat listlessly on the ground, his face full of disappointment and frustration. Fatso and the others were beside him, trying to persuade him in a low voice. Obviously, he had failed. Qin Feiyang walked in front of Yin Wei and laughed. This was originally a matter of luck. There's nothing to be depressed about, continue. Yin Wei raised his head and looked at the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir in Qin Feiyang's hands. His heart was filled with desire, but at the same time, he was also very nervous. He was afraid that he would fail again. Since I've already taken this step, I must continue. I can't waste it for nothing, right? Don't be too burdened. Even if I fail this time, I still have 7 sets of medicinal ingredients. I don't believe that an entire 10 sets of medicinal ingredients won't be able to help you successfully break through, Qin Feiyang said, his stubborn temper rising. Even if he had to use up all the medicinal ingredients today, he would still send Yin Wei to the 9 Stars War sect. Hearing these words and looking at Qin Feiyang's sincere expression, Yin Wei was extremely moved. Thank you. He slowly raised his arm and grabbed the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir from Qin Feiyang's hands. At this moment, even if there were thousands of words, they would not be able to express the gratitude in his heart towards Qin Feiyang. He could only repay the young man in front of him with all his might. The disappointment and frustration in his eyes finally disappeared, replaced by a firm will. Without the slightest hesitation, he swallowed the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir. The majestic energy once again exploded in his body, like waves of anger, surging towards every part of his body. Boom! His aura once again soared. In less than 10 breaths, it once again soared to the peak of the 8 Stars War Saint realm. However, the previous situation happened again. Fatso and the others were anxious. But the most anxious one was still Yin Wei. I want to succeed. I can't let down Qin Feiyang's expectations. Break for me. He clenched his fists tightly and suddenly roared, his teeth bared and his eyes cracked. Boom. The next moment, the gradually declining aura once again roared out from his body like a volcanic eruption. At this moment, his black hair and clothes fluttered, imperceptibly emitting a shocking oppressive force. That aura was soaring in a straight line. Boom. All of a sudden, there was a dull explosion in his body. The shackles were finally broken. His aura had finally risen to that of a 9 Stars War Saint. Success. Chapter 871. An 8-star battle saint and a 9-star battle saint were on completely different levels. For example, a sacred weapon. A 9-star battle saint could fully recover with the power of a single person. It could be said that a 9-star battle saint with a sacred weapon was invincible below the battle emperor level. An 8-star battle saint could not do that. Of course, an 8-star battle saint could forcefully recover, but he would definitely suffer a backlash. Therefore, seeing that Yin Wei had successfully become a 9-star battle saint, Qin Feiyang and the rest were very happy, because in this way, their overall strength would increase by several times. Did I really succeed? However, Yin Wei felt the surging power in his body and felt as if he was dreaming. He was very clear about his own talent. If he cultivated as usual, it would take at least a few decades, or even 100 years to break through. However, He did not expect that he would be able to become a 9-star battle saint with just one elixir. This kind of breakthrough made him feel very unreal. After a while, he swallowed his saliva and looked up at Qin Feiyong and the rest, asking, "Is this really not a dream?" Qin Feiyong and the rest were stunned. The truth was right in front of them. It's not a dream. You have really become a 9-star battle saint now? Lu Hong smiled. It's true, Yanwei muttered to himself. Swoosh. He suddenly got up and bowed deeply to Qin Feiyong, saying gratefully, I'm really grateful. We're all on the same side. Why are you so polite? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. We're on the same side, Yanwei murmured and could not help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. Don't be so excited. This is just an appetizer. The real sweetness is yet to come. Fatso chuckled. What sweetness? Yanwei looked at him suspiciously. Fatso did not answer him directly. He turned to look at Qin Feiyong and said, now that he has broken through to become a 9-star battle saint, he should be able to unlock the door to his potential. Qin Feiyong nodded. Door of potential. Yanwei's eyes trembled. In this world, the most tempting thing was undoubtedly the door of potential. Even the legendary divine items could not be compared to the value of the gate of potential. But there was a problem. Yanwei was a 9-star battle sage and needed the assistance of the Emperor's aura to open the door to his potential. The massive central divine kingdom naturally had plenty of battle emperors, but none of them were trustworthy. For a time, everyone couldn't help but frown and fall into deep thought. A moment later, Qin Feiyong's eyes lit up. I know who to ask for help. Who? Everyone looked at him. Li He, Qin Feiyong said. Fatso was slightly taken aback. If we ask him for help, wouldn't that be the same as telling him that we have a pill that can open the door to his potential? I deliberately let him know. Because this way, he will wholeheartedly cooperate with us. Qin Feiyong smiled and whispered into Fatso's ear. Good. Hearing this, Fatso nodded. Next, Qin Feiyong walked to the altar, opened a chinkuan bag, and took out 3 potential pills. 2 potential pills, and handed them to Yanwei. Subsequently, he brought Fatso and Yanwei out of the castle and appeared in the alchemy room. Give me the herbs. Qin Feiyong walked to the front of the furnace and said. Fatso immediately took out his chinkuan bag and took out 1 medicinal herb after another. They were the medicinal herbs for the small creation pill. There were 2 in total. In less than a moment, 2 small creation pills were out of the furnace. Qin Feiyong also handed the small creation pill to Yanwei and said, Go to the trading pavilion now. You must investigate that person's identity. The 2 of them nodded heavily. Ancestor Mu, do you really want to be a bastard? Outside, the 2 white-clothed youths were still hooting. Are you done? Fatso raised his eyebrows. Do you want me to go out and get rid of them? Yanwei looked at Qin Feiyong, a cold light flashing in his eyes. No need. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, his face full of disdain. Oh right, boss, why weren't you disturbed by them before? Fatso asked curiously. Qin Feiyong laughed. As the saying goes, one learns from one's mistakes. When I was refining pills before, I was already fully mentally prepared. As long as he was mentally prepared in advance, with his calm temperament, he would not be disturbed. Is that so? Fatso suddenly realized and laughed. You're still the best. Then we'll go first. Qin Feiyong nodded. Fatso waved his hand and opened a portal. He and Yanwei walked in one after another. Mu Jia, I'd like to see if it has anything to do with you. Qin Feiyong muttered. His eyes flashed. He put away the blazing sun cauldron and strode towards the stone door. Outside the stone door, the 2 white-clothed youths lazily leaned against the railing of the corridor, constantly cursing. We scolded him like this and he didn't come out. His endurance is a bit too strong, isn't it? It's not that he doesn't want to come out, it's that he doesn't dare to come out. Let's go back and rest. We'll continue after we've rested. Yes, we have plenty of time anyway. The 2 looked at each other and smiled, then turned and left. However, just as the 2 of them turned around, the tightly shut stone door suddenly opened, and Qin Feiyong walked out with large strides. The 2 white-clothed youths were stunned. They turned around at the same time. Their faces were full of ridicule. You finally came out. I thought you're going to hide in there for the rest of your life. The two of them slowly stepped forward. Their eyes were full of contempt. Ancestor Mu, they scolded you like this and you can still endure it. I really admire you. Exactly. If it were me, I would have accepted their challenge long ago, defeated them fair and square, and made them scram with their tails between their legs. Some of the disciples who were watching the show laughed. At first glance, these people were supporting Qin Feiyang, but in fact, they had ulterior motives. They instigated Qin Feiyang to accept the challenge and then waited for Qin Feiyang to embarrass himself. Because now, Qin Feiyang's spiritual energy was only at level 10. Almost all the disciples in the first tower knew about it. But a person with level 10 spiritual energy was occupying the 10th alchemy room. They felt very unbalanced. Looking at Qin Feiyang again, he didn't even want to look at these people who hid a knife behind their smiles. He glanced at the two white-clothed youths, turned around, closed the stone door, and walked directly to the 9th alchemy room. Why are you so cowardly? Didn't your parents teach you to be a person with integrity? The two of them sneered presumptuously. Qin Feiyang's body stiffened. He stopped walking and turned to look at the two of them. His eyes gradually turned cold. Ayaya, look at how scary his eyes have become. I'm scared to death. One of the white-clothed youths quickly took a few steps back and patted his chest. However, his eyes were full of ridicule. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said lightly, "Does the main tower allow private fights?" Huh, are they going to fight? Everyone looked at each other. Someone immediately replied, "Yes, yes. It's fine as long as no one dies. If you want to fight to the death, you have to go to the fighting arena." Won't anyone die? Qin Feiyang muttered, looked at the two white-clothed youths and said, "I don't have time to go to the fighting arena now, so I'll teach you a lesson first." The two of them were stunned. Ha ha. Following that, the two of them laughed, and the disdain on their faces was undisguised. Was this person stupid? A mere 8-star battle saint dared to threaten to teach them a lesson? Boom. Qin Feiyang didn't waste any more words. He raised his hand and pointed at the air. An invisible force suddenly roared out from his fingertips like a raging wave. As soon as it was pointed out, the laughter stopped abruptly. The two white-clothed youths' eyes widened in anger. As a 9-star battle master and a member of the Scorpion tribe, they could naturally judge at a glance that the destructive power of this finger was comparable to a perfect battle art. You can't underestimate it. Get out of the way. The two of them quickly dodged to the side. Boom. That invisible force exploded on the corridor in front of them, creating a deafening explosion. It's a bit strong. Those who witnessed this scene with their own eyes couldn't help but shrink their pupils, and there was some fear in them. The two white-clothed youths also broke out in cold sweat. If they hadn't dodged quickly, they would have been in big trouble. Whoosh! Suddenly, the two of them looked at Qin Feiyang, and a cold light surged in their eyes. In this tower, you're not the only one who has a perfect battle art. Wake up! The two of them roared and waved their hands at the same time. Battle Chi emerged, and a destructive wave quickly spread out in the Pill Pagoda. Clang! But at this moment, accompanied by a loud noise, a stone door suddenly opened. As soon as the stone door opened, the entire Pill Pagoda fell into a dead silence. Because this open stone door led to Alchemy Room Number 1. Everyone looked at Alchemy Room Number 1, and their faces were full of fear. Whoosh! Suddenly, a purple figure rushed out from Alchemy Room Number 1 and landed in front of the two white-clothed youths like lightning. Slap! The next moment, two loud slaps sounded in this place, and it was particularly ear-piercing. Then, the purple figure took a few steps back, stood in the middle of the corridor, and revealed his true appearance. It was a purple-clothed youth. His skin was like jade, and his black hair was like a waterfall, showing an extraordinary temperament. His two eyes were like two bright moons, and his whole body exuded a king's aura. Greetings, Senior Brother Pei. At this moment, everyone who was watching from the outside lowered their proud heads and bowed to the purple-clothed young man. Pei. Qin Feiyang looked at Pei's sadness, and his pupils constricted slightly. This person's aura had reached the peak of the 9-star Battle Master realm. He could even faintly feel a trace of sage aura from him. It was enough to show that he was half a step into the Battle Sage realm. Then he looked at the two white-clothed youths. There was a striking palm print on their faces. The two of them were also stunned by this slap. They couldn't understand why Pei slapped them. I slapped you to let you remember that without my permission, no one can cause trouble in the Pill Pagoda, Pei said indifferently, with a dignified tone that couldn't be disobeyed and a domineering aura of a superior. What about him? He started it first. The two white-clothed youths pointed at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "If you hadn't been shouting here, would he have done it? You started it first. Of course you have to pay the price." Chapter 872. Not bad, Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. From this incident, it could be seen that Pei was a person who could distinguish between gratitude and grudges. On the other hand, the two young men in white, at this moment, they had no choice but to suffer in silence. Seeing that the two of them were indifferent, Pei raised his eyebrows and hollered, "What are you waiting for? Get lost." Yes. The two of them shuddered and hurriedly responded respectfully before turning around to flee. However, before leaving, the two of them glared at Qin Feiyang menacingly without hiding their threatening intentions. However, Qin Feiyang didn't take it to heart at all. If it weren't for Pei Yi's sudden appearance, the two of them would have ended up in a worse state. After the two of them left, Pei Yi's expression softened, and he turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for helping me out, Senior Brother Pei. It's just a small matter, don't mention it." Pei smiled and waved his hand before sending a voice transmission. "However, try not to fight in the future if you can." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Pei was rather pleased with Qin Feiyang's attitude. He was neither arrogant nor rash and was a talent. Pei asked, "Do you have time now?" Qin Feiyang said, "I happen to have something to attend to." "All right then. When you're free, let's go to Longfeng House for a few drinks. I'll treat you to a meal and invite Qin Dai along." Pei smiled. "No problem." Qin Feiyang responded with a smile. "Goodbye." Pei cupped his fists and turned into a stream of light, darting into alchemy room number 1 at lightning speed. He is humble and amiable, and he is not arrogant when taking credit for himself. "I can try befriending him," Qin Feiyang murmured, then walked to the door of alchemy room number 9 and knocked hard on the stone door. At the next moment, the stone door opened automatically. Qin Feiyang strode in and saw Mu Qing recuperating in the lounge. Qin Feiyang glanced at him, turned around and closed the stone door, then walked straight into the alchemy room. On the alchemy platform, there was a bronze alchemy cauldron. It was about the same size as an ordinary alchemy cauldron. On the wall, there was a carving of a green bull. Qin Feiyang didn't even turn his head as he asked, "Is this the pill furnace that Fengemo gave you?" "Yes." Mu Qing nodded, then frowned and said, "Are you really going to take it away? Do I look like I'm joking?" Qin Feiyang waved his hand and erased the blood contract in the furnace. Then, he dripped a drop of blood to claim ownership. A piece of information flowed into his mind. The 6th grade cauldron, Azure Ox Cauldron. Still a loss. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed deeply. He put the green ox cauldron back into the castle. Fuck. What's there to lose? Mu Qing was so angry that she almost exploded. For a single cauldron explosion, he had paid the price of a Tier 6 cauldron and a Tier 6 cauldron. He had even been violently beaten up. If there was a loss, it should be him who had lost. This bastard was a typical example of taking advantage of others. It was too infuriating. "You don't understand." Qin Feiyang shook his head, then turned to look at Mu Qing and said, "When do we set off?" "Now, right now, right now." Mu Qing roared. She was flustered and exasperated. Then, she got up and opened a portal. She walked in without looking back. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly and followed her into the portal. The next moment, the two appeared in the sky above a mountain range. The mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. Ancient trees were verdant and huge peaks towered into the sky, exuding a majestic aura. Be careful. This is the Sky Scorpion mountain range. It's possible to meet people from the Sky Scorpion tribe anywhere. Mu Qing scanned the mountain range. Her expression was full of vigilance. Qin Feiyang nodded. Follow me. After Mu Qing finished speaking, she turned into a ray of light and flew down the mountain stream. Qin Feiyang followed behind Mu Qing without saying a word. Soon, the two of them landed on a short mountain. At the peak of the mountain, the vegetation was lush. The two of them stood in the middle of a patch of grass and looked ahead. Mu Qing suddenly pointed to a certain place in front of them and said in a deep voice, "Do you see that? There are two people from the Sky Scorpion tribe over there." Qin Feiyang looked over and saw a clear river a few miles away. There were two middle-aged men dressed in black, flying above the river. Their eyes swept back and forth across the river, as well as both sides of the river, as if they were looking for something. However, the strength of the two of them wasn't very strong. They were only War Master. They should be looking for medicinal herbs. Should we go and get rid of them first? Mu Qing asked secretly. It's best not to go, so as to not alert the enemy. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "When will your second ancestor arrive?" "I'm not sure either. He only said that we should wait here." Mu Qing shrugged his shoulders. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "My time is very precious. Don't drag it out for too long. Can you stop acting cool?" Mu Qing turned his head and glanced at Qin Feiyang. Seeing Qin Feiyang's mature look, he wanted to rush up and beat him up. At the same time, Trading Pavilion. Why are you here again? In the lounge, looking at Fatso and Yin Wei who appeared out of thin air, Li He, who was sitting in front of the desk, revealed a look of surprise. "Am I not welcome?" Fatso frowned. "Of course you're welcome. Quick, take a seat." Li He chuckled and quickly stood up to entertain the two. Fatso chuckled and waved his hand. "I'll sit down later. Right now, there's something I need your help with." "Why are you being so polite with me?" "Just say it," Li He said. Fatso glanced at the lounge and said, "It's best to find a more secretive place first." Li He was stunned and said in surprise, "What is it that needs to be so secretive?" "It's a very big matter." Fatso looked around vigilantly and said in a low voice. Li He immediately became interested and said, "There's a secret room under my trading pavilion that I usually use for seclusion. It's absolutely safe." Fatso thought for a moment and said, "There are too many people. Forget it. Let's go out of the city and find a place where there are no traces of people." "Okay." Li He nodded and thought carefully. With a wave of his old hand, a teleportation door quickly opened. "Both of you, please." Li He retreated to the side with a smile. As long as one was not an idiot, one could see that he was trying to curry favor. Fatso and Yin Wei did not stand on ceremony and took the lead to enter the teleportation door. In the sky above a majestic mountain, the three of them appeared out of thin air. This place is called Fire Phoenix Mountain Range and is hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Divine City. Very few people come here. "Follow me." Li He gave a brief introduction and flew towards a huge mountain on the left. Halfway up the huge mountain, there was a cave that was about 10 feet wide. It was pitch black inside. The three of them stopped in front of the cave. Li He smiled and said, "I remember many years ago. I came here to look for an herb and was accidentally injured by a saint beast. At that time, I hid in this cave to recuperate." Fatso looked around and then at the cave. He nodded in satisfaction and said, "This is it." Swoosh. The three of them flew into the cave one after another. The cave was very deep. The three of them flew for more than 10 breaths before reaching the deepest part. This was a stone cave that was very spacious. Although there was no sunlight shining in and it was pitch black, it did not affect the three of them. "Can you tell me now?" Li He looked at the two of them, his old eyes filled with curiosity. Fatso said mysteriously, "Close your eyes first." This, Li He could not help but frown. Fatso said, "Don't worry, we won't plot against you. Furthermore, you're so strong. We don't have the ability to plot against you." "All right." Li He nodded helplessly and closed his eyes. "Hurry and take the potential elixir." Fatso hurriedly sent a message to Yin Wei. Yin Wei nodded and immediately took out 3 potential elixirs, stuffing them into his mouth. "There's a medicinal fragrance?" The medicinal fragrance of the potential elixir was extremely rich. After smelling it, Lihi's heart was filled with shock. Wait. At the same time, Fatso's eyes widened as he grabbed Yin Wei's wrist hurriedly and said angrily in his heart, "What are you doing? Weren't you the one who told me to take the potential elixir?" Yin Wei looked at him suspiciously. Fatso was stunned and let go of Yin Wei's wrist, saying speechlessly, "I did ask you to take it, but I didn't ask you to take it all. You can only take one at a time." "Then you should have made it clear." Yin Wei was speechless as well. He kept 2 potential elixirs and threw the remaining one into his mouth. Fatso said, "Sit down." Yin Wei sat cross-legged on the ground as he was told. Fatso looked at Li He and said with a smile, "That's enough." Li He opened his eyes, looked at Yin Wei who was sitting on the ground, and asked doubtfully, "What are you doing now?" "Don't ask anything, just do as Fat Lord says. I promise to give you a big surprise later. Now, release your Emperor's might and imprison him. But be careful, don't kill him." Fatso pointed to Yin Wei and said, "Release the Emperor's might?" Li He became more and more confused. At this moment, Yin Wei's body began to tremble, and a look of pain crawled onto his face. Obviously, the potential elixir's effect had taken effect. Quick! Seeing this, Fatso hurriedly urged Li He. Li He quivered, and the Emperor's might roared out, instantly enveloping Yin Wei. Roar! Just as he was being enveloped by the Emperor's might, Yin Wei suddenly raised his head and let out a beast-like roar, hysterical. His eyes were also completely red. What's going on? Li He was bewildered. Fatso ignored him and stared at Yin Wei, saying in a deep voice, "I've also tasted this feeling before. It's very painful. Living is worse than death. Even though your cultivation is stronger than ours, I'm afraid it's unbearable, but you have to persevere, otherwise you will explode and die." Explode and die. Li He's gaze trembled. What were these two doing? Yin Wei could not help but tremble both physically and mentally. He never thought that opening the gate of potential would be so dangerous. He did not dare to let his guard down, gritting his teeth and persevering. After a few breaths, all the pores on his body began to spurt blood, and in an instant, he was covered in blood. That heart-wrenching pain caused his face to contort and distort. After a while, Yin Wei suddenly let out a long howl. The loud howl turned into an invisible sound wave that rushed out of the cave, alarming all the ferocious beasts in the nearby mountains. They soared into the air one after another, looking at the giant peak where Fatso and the other two were, their fierce eyes filled with bewilderment. At the same time, Yin Wei's body also exploded with a dull bang, and the position of his heart also blossomed with a bright light. Good. Successfully opened the first level. Fatso laughed and hurriedly looked at Li He, saying, "Quickly retract the Emperor's might." With a thought from Li He, the terrifying Emperor's might instantly disappeared. Yin Wei also could not wait to take off his clothes and wipe off the blood on his chest. Immediately, a white potential imprint was exposed to Li He's line of sight. Li He sized up the imprint, his old eyes full of suspicion. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and his old body suddenly trembled, saying, "Could it be? That's right, it's the potential imprint." Fatso chuckled. Li He's face went blank as he stared at Yin Wei in bewilderment, saying, "How did you do it?" Yin Wei was still immersed in joy, and instinctively replied, "Medicinal pill." Boom. The moment these words came out, Li He was like a bolt from the blue on the spot, his mind rumbling. Medicinal pills to open the door of potential. What kind of joke was this? How was this possible? But suddenly, he thought of the medicinal fragrance he smelled earlier. He swallowed his saliva with difficulty, looked at Fatso and asked, "Is it really a medicinal pill?" "Of course." Fatso nodded. Li He was completely stunned. After being in the transaction pavilion for so many years, what kind of medicinal pill had he not seen? But he had never heard of a medicinal pill that could open the door of potential in the world. This was completely beyond his imagination. What kind of background did this group of people have to actually hide so many shocking medicinal pills? Fatso laughed. "How is it? Is this a surprise?" Yes, definitely." Li He nodded repeatedly, looking at Fatso and Su Zimo with longing in his eyes. If he could get his hands on such a medicinal pill, coupled with the 9-melody yellow dragon pill, the position of Deputy Pavilion Master of the Transaction Pavilion would definitely belong to him. My boss said that as long as we have a good cooperation, you'll definitely benefit a lot. Fatso chuckled. Our cooperation has to be good. If there's anything in the future, feel free to tell me. As long as I can do it, I'll definitely do it. Li He patted his chest and vowed solemnly, as though he was dozens of years younger, looking hale and hearty. Fatso smiled smugly and looked at Yin Wei. Hurry and heal your injuries. We'll continue to open the second level later. All right. Yin Wei immediately took out a healing elixir and threw it into his mouth, closing his eyes to heal his injuries. What? It can be opened continuously? Li He was bewildered. Of course. Fatso nodded. Chapter 873. Fire Phoenix Mountain Range. With the help of Li He, Yin Wei continued to open the door of potential. Whether it was talent or body, they were all undergoing earth-shaking changes. At the same time, Scorpio Mountain Range. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing stood side by side at the peak of the short mountain, looking around vigilantly. Swish. Suddenly, an old figure silently appeared behind them. It was an old woman, wearing a pitch-black robe, skinny and with a trace of fierceness on her wrinkled face. It was the previous housekeeper of the Mu family, Mu Li. Greetings, young master. After the black-robed old woman appeared, she glanced at the mountain range in front of her and bowed to Mu Qing. You're here. Mu Qing turned and looked at the black-robed old woman with a smile. The black-robed old woman nodded. Qin Feiyang also slowly turned around. The moment their eyes met, there was an invisible collision that caused sparks to fly. Then, Qin Feiyang glanced behind the black-robed old woman and frowned. You came alone? Although the strength of the Scorpio tribe is not as good as my Mu family, it is still a super tribe. With this old woman's strength, I can't get rid of them. So, of course, it's impossible for this old woman to come alone. The black-robed old woman said expressionlessly, as if she didn't like Qin Feiyang. What about the others? Qin Feiyang asked. As for the black-robed old woman's attitude, he directly ignored it. What's the hurry? The black-robed old woman glanced at him indifferently, then at the mountain range in front of her, and said, Wait for me here. After saying that, the black-robed old woman turned into a stream of light and flew away like lightning. Above the river, the two middle-aged men of the Scorpio tribe were still there. Whoosh! Almost in the blink of an eye, the black-robed old woman descended above the two men. With a wave of her old hand, she directly erased the two men. Everything happened in an instant, and the two men didn't even have time to call for help. Then, the black-robed old woman cut through the sky again and rushed in another direction. Soon, she had returned, and her entire body was filled with a shocking, murderous aura. The people of the Scorpion tribe nearby have all been killed by this old one. This old one will inform the second ancestor. After saying that, the black-robed old woman took out an image crystal. The next moment, a purple-clothed old man appeared. It's the Mu family's second ancestor. The black-robed old woman bowed and said, Greetings, second ancestor. The obstacles have been cleared. Well done. Mu Jia's second ancestor nodded, and the shadow dissipated. In less than 3 breaths, Mu Jia's second grandmaster appeared. He stood above the heads of Qin Feiyang and the other two, gazing into the depths of the mountain range, his old eyes flashing with a cold light. Swish! After the Mu clan's second forefather, more and more silhouettes began to materialize in the void. There were a total of 30 people, and they were all well-built men. They were also wearing the same black robes, and the aura they exuded was unfathomable. Greetings, young master. These 30 well-built men, after bowing to Mu Qing, looked at Qin Feiyang. Mu Qing glanced at Qin Feiyang and chuckled. Did you see that? Each of them has the cultivation of a war emperor. Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. 30 war emperors were sent out at once. This Mu clan's foundation was too terrifying. Are you scared? Let me tell you, This is only the tip of the iceberg of my Mu clan. Mu Qing said proudly. What do you want to say? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. What I want to say is, before going against my Mu clan in the future, it's better to weigh yourself first. Mu Qing laughed secretly. Weigh? The corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth lifted, and a trace of ridicule could not be removed. The Mu clan's foundation indeed made him panic, but he had never put Mu Qing in his eyes. We can act now. At this time, the Mu clan's second forefather retracted his gaze and looked at the 30 well-built men. You guys spread out and surround the Scorpion tribe. Don't let even a fly escape. Yes, the 30 burly men responded respectfully, then turned into streaks of light and flew off in different directions. The Mu clan's second forefather looked at the black-robed old woman and said, You go to the Scorpion tribe's medicine field. Okay. The black-robed old woman nodded and rushed to the east of the mountain range. Medicine field? Qin Feiyong was stunned and secretly asked Mu Qing. The Scorpion tribe has a medicine field? Of course. Every tribe in the Central Divine Kingdom has its own medicine field. Among them, the top 10 tribes have the largest medicine fields and the most varieties. And most of them are 10,000-year-old herbs, Mu Qing said. After hearing this, Qin Feiyong immediately calculated in his heart. Mu Qing looked at him, and suddenly a trace of vigilance crept up on her face, asking, What do you want? Nothing? Qin Feiyong shook his head. One must know how to be content. Don't think about things you shouldn't think about. The Mu clan's second forefather also glanced at Qin Feiyong and said faintly with a clear threat in his tone. Then, he rolled up Qin Feiyong and flew straight to the depths of the Scorpion Mountain range. Content? If I don't get some benefits, wouldn't this trip be in vain? Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. Suddenly, he flickered and disappeared without a trace. Huh. The Mu clan's second forefather suddenly braked and stopped in the void. At the same time, Mu Qing also frowned and glanced at the void, saying in a deep voice, Qin Feiyong, I'll kindly advise you not to think too much. Whoosh! Qin Feiyong appeared in the void below and looked up at the two with a smile. I can't help much even if I go, so it's better to walk around. Walk around? Don't treat us as fools. Do you think we don't know that you want to go to the medicine field too? Mu Qing sneered. You guessed it. I really want to praise you. Qin Feiyong laughed. Thank you, but no need. But I will never let you touch the medicine field. Mu Qing said very seriously. Then why do you want me to come? To watch you kill people? Not interested. If you don't let me go to the medicine field, then I'll go back to the main tower. But I'm not a tight-lipped person. If I accidentally let it slip, don't blame me. Qin Feiyong grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Mu Qing's face sank. Now, the arrow on the bow has to be released. If Qin Feiyong really went back to spread the news, it may be a disaster for the Mu clan. The Mu clan's second forefather's eyes flashed and nodded. Okay, as you wish, go. Great ancestor, you can't. Mu Qing quickly turned his head and anxiously looked at the second forefather. It doesn't matter. Isn't it just some herbs? It doesn't matter if you give it to him. The Mu clan's second forefather waved his hand. Then thank you very much. Qin Feiyong smiled brightly and used the phantom steps, rushing towards the east. Looking at Qin Feiyong's back, Mu Qing was extremely angry. Then he looked at the Mu clan's second forefather and frowned. Great ancestor, you can't let him do as he pleases, otherwise he will definitely take advantage of you. Don't worry. It won't be that easy for him to get the herbs. The Mu clan's second forefather sneered and took out the image crystal. Buzz. The next moment, the black-robed old woman's shadow emerged. The Mu clan's second forefather said, Qin Feiyong is going. You watch, if necessary, give him a little pain. In short, don't let him get a single herb. Mu Qing added. Understood. The black-robed old woman nodded, and then the shadow dissipated in an instant. Whoosh! The Mu clan's second forefather also took Mu Qing and continued to rush forward. Back to Qin Feiyong. After flying for a distance, he stopped over a dense forest and glanced around, his brows tightly knitted together. He ignored a problem. He didn't know the exact location of the herb field, and the black-robed old woman's speed was many times faster than his, She had long disappeared. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he dragged Wolf King out of the castle, urging, "Quickly track the black-robed old woman's scent." The Wolf King also clearly heard the conversation between Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing from the castle. So, without Qin Feiyang's explanation, it also knew what to do. At that moment, it used its strength to flick its nose and said, "Follow me." Whoosh! One man and one wolf rushed through the air, chasing into a large mountain. Within a radius of dozens of breaths, there were towering and majestic giant peaks. The lowest was more than 1,000 feet. The mountain stream was surrounded by clouds and mist, hazy and full of a mysterious aura. Wolf King's nose twitched, his eyes flashing, and said, "I can already smell the medicinal fragrance." Qin Feiyang couldn't help but look forward to it. Wolf King suddenly turned his head, looked at Qin Feiyang, and asked, "Don't you want to change your appearance?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, nodded, and said, "Yes, I have to change it." If he met the people of the Scorpion tribe, and if the Mu clan didn't eliminate the root of the problem, then wouldn't his current identity be exposed? He thought about it and simply took a facial restoration pill to restore his true appearance. Because Wolf King was beside him, no matter what he looked like, the other party would be able to recognize him. Therefore, it was better to directly show his true appearance. After a dozen breaths, the clouds in front of them gradually dispersed, and a large canyon entered the sight of a man and a wolf. Holy shit! Wolf King was stunned on the spot. The canyon was more than a dozen miles wide, but there was nothing on the ground, not even a blade of grass. It was all medicinal herbs, densely packed in a large area. This is too much. Qin Feiyang was also dumbfounded by what he saw. Those stalks of medicinal herbs swayed in the wind, gushing with multicolored light that dyed the entire canyon in a myriad of colors. It was incomparably gorgeous. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed, staring at the center of the canyon. There was a small old wooden building, and on the terrace of the small wooden building, a white figure could be faintly seen. Someone is guarding it? A man and a wolf's heart trembled. They quickly landed below the mountain stream and quietly sneaked into the canyon. What about the old witch? Didn't she come first? The Wolf King asked in a low voice, his eyes full of suspicion. She may be hiding somewhere, Qin Feiyang said. If that's the case, it means that the old witch is not sure to kill the person guarding the herbal field, Wolf King said. Qin Feiyang nodded. This old woman is not sure. Before her voice faded, a cold voice suddenly sounded behind the man and the wolf. We've been discovered. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at each other, stopped and turned their head. Sure enough, it was the black-robed old woman. The black-robed old woman glanced at the man and the wolf, sneered. Your ambition is not small. You want to take the herbal field? Chapter 874. So what if he leaked the information? Don't think that you're the only smart person in this world. The black-robed old woman smiled disdainfully. I really didn't realize that you're that smart. Qin Feiyang laughed. The black-robed old woman's eyes darkened slightly. What? You want to fight? Then you'd better think about it. Putting aside our cooperation, as long as you make a move, the person guarding the herb field will immediately sense your aura. At that time, not to mention the herbs, you might not even be able to keep your life. Qin Feiyang laughed, not nervous at all. Are you threatening me? The black-robed old woman's eyes flashed coldly. No, no, no. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, I'm not threatening you. I'm just giving you a piece of advice. Then I'll also give you a piece of advice. You'd better leave immediately, or you'll have to bear the consequences. The black-robed old woman said, What consequences? Don't scare me. I'm a very timid person. Qin Feiyang took a few steps back, his hands in front of his chest, looking at the black-robed old woman warily, but his face was full of ridicule. Little bastard, let me tell you, as long as I'm here, you won't get a single herb. The black-robed old woman gritted her teeth, her hands tightly clenched together. At this moment, she couldn't wait to rush up and kill Qin Feiyang. That's not necessarily true. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips and smiled, saying, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. The herbs here, we'll each take half. Why? The black-robed old woman was so angry that she laughed. She really had an impulse to hit someone. What do you think? Qin Feiyong laughed. I really don't see how you can threaten me. The black-robed old woman sneered. In her view, Qin Feiyong was just bluffing. You're not just an ordinary idiot. Take a guess. What do you think will happen if I yell now? Qin Feiyong laughed. The black-robed old woman frowned. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and her body stiffened. If that was the case, the people guarding the herb field would have noticed it immediately. Qin Feiyong said, Do you think I have the right to threaten you now? You. The black-robed old woman gnashed her teeth. Shoo. Don't be angry. If you accidentally expose your aura, you'll be in big trouble. Qin Feiyong made a shushing gesture and laughed in a low voice. The black-robed old woman's pupils constricted as she swept her gaze over Qin Feiyong and Wolf King. A moment later, in the end, she compromised and nodded. All right, we'll split it in half. That's right. We could have discussed this peacefully. Why did you have to make things so awkward? Qin Feiyong smiled. Humph. The black-robed old woman snorted and turned around, heading towards the canyon. Qin Feiyong and Wolf King looked at each other and quickly chased after him. Very quickly, the two men and the wolf arrived at the bottom of the canyon and climbed up to the peak on the left. They lay in the grass and restrained their aura as they looked at the small wooden building in the middle of the canyon. From here, they could clearly see the true appearance of the person on the balcony. It was an old man who was over 70 years old. His hair was white and his body was stooped. However, his aura was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. It's him. The black-robed old woman frowned. Who? Qin Feiyong and Wolf King looked at her in surprise. The great elder of the Scorpion tribe. He has the cultivation of a 5-star war emperor. I'm not his opponent. You have to think of a way to lure him away. The black-robed old woman said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyong was startled and said with a flattering smile, Me? Lure him away? Are you kidding me? The black-robed old woman frowned. You have the castle to hide in. What are you afraid of? I'm not afraid of him, but I'm afraid of you. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? When I lure him away, you'll take the opportunity to collect the herbs in the medicine field. At that time, I won't be able to get a single one. Qin Feiyong said. The black-robed old woman was a little angry. How could this person be so shrewd? She asked. Then what do you think we should do? Don't you already have an idea in your heart? Why are you still asking me? Qin Feiyong said. Didn't you say I'm stupid? What idea can I have? The black-robed old woman's eyes flashed and said lightly, Don't pretend. You haven't made a move yet. Isn't it because you're waiting for your second ancestor to make a move? Qin Feiyong sneered. The black-robed old woman raised her eyebrows and immediately fell silent. Little Qinzi, what do you mean by waiting for their second ancestor to make a move? Wolf King looked suspiciously at the black-robed old woman and secretly asked. It means that as long as the second ancestor of the Mu family makes a move, the great elder of the heavenly clan will definitely leave the medicine field and go to the tribe to support. And when this person leaves, these herbs will be ours, right? Qin Feiyong secretly laughed. So that's how it is. Wolf King murmured, thought for a moment and said, It doesn't seem right. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong asked. Now this old witch doesn't dare to do anything to us because of the great elder. But if he leaves, this old witch won't have any worries, right? At that time, she will seriously injure us or use her pressure to imprison us. Then we can only watch her loot these herbs, right? Wolf King said, Not bad. You know how to think about problems. Qin Feiyong laughed. Wolf King said disdainfully, TSK, I just don't like to use my brain. Do you really think I'm an idiot? Good, good, good. You're smart. I underestimated you. I also thought about your problem. And this old witch will definitely do as you said. So, I have already made a plan. Qin Feiyong said. What plan? Wolf King was curious. You'll know later. Qin Feiyong smiled mysteriously. He can't compare to the Mu family's strength, but in terms of brains, he is confident that he can play around with them. The conversation between the man and the wolf was carried out in secret, So the black-robed old woman didn't know. At this moment, she was also calculating in her heart. In short, both of them have their own ulterior motives. At the same time, in the center of the Sky Scorpion Mountain, there is a huge city. Tall buildings, majestic and tall, exuding an ancient aura. In front of the city, there is a plain. On the plain, there is a layer of green grass. There are no towering ancient trees, nor birds and beasts, but there is a group of young people practicing martial arts seriously. There are also a few old people teaching them. On one side, there is an ancient stone tablet, engraved with 4 bold words. Sky Scorpion Tribe. On the top of the stone tablet, there is a sky scorpion totem carved, vivid and lifelike. You can even feel an astonishing murderous aura from the totem. That's right. This is the base camp of the Sky Scorpion Tribe. Whoosh! Suddenly, there is a sound of breaking air in the distance. One of the slightly older old men frowned slightly, apparently already aware of it, and looked up. In the distance, there are 2 figures breaking through the air like lightning. Who is it? The other old men also noticed the 2 figures, and a trace of surprise crept into their old eyes. Whoosh! The 2 figures are very fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, they arrived in the sky above the plain. After revealing their true appearance, the eyes of the old men on the plain suddenly trembled. Because these 2 people are the Mu family's second ancestor and Mu Qing. And Mu Qing has also restored her true appearance. The older old man quickly retracted his gaze, looked at the young men who are practicing martial arts, and whispered, "Children, go back quickly." The group of young men suspiciously looked at Mu Qing and Mu Qing, and then rushed towards the city like a swarm of bees. When the group of young men entered the city, the older old man breathed a sigh of relief, raised his head to look at the Mu family's second ancestor, and cupped his hands. "Greetings to the Lord. May I know why the Lord has come to our Sky Scorpion tribe?" The other old men also bowed one after another. Their expressions were extremely respectful, and there was a trace of fear that can't be dispersed. However, what responded to them was the arrival of death. The Mu family's second ancestor waved his hand, and a terrifying pressure emerged, roaring towards them like a torrent. Before they could figure out the situation, they were smashed by the pressure, and not even their bones were left. What's the situation? This move is undoubtedly like poking a hornet's nest. One figure after another, like meteors, constantly swept out of the city. Some stood on the city wall. Some stood in the sky above the city. But when they saw the Mu family's second ancestor, everyone's face crawled with panic. The Mu family's second ancestor glanced at those people and shouted, "Guqingqing, get out here." His voice was like a bell, resounding in all directions. Whoosh! Not long after, 2 figures hurried over. It was the Sky Scorpion tribe's chief and high priest. Second ancestor. When the 2 saw the Mu family's second ancestor, their eyes slightly trembled, and quickly flew to the front of the Mu family's second ancestor, bowing, "Greetings to the Lord. Do you want me to do it myself, or do you want to do it yourself?" The Mu family's second ancestor said expressionlessly, Guqingqing and the high priest looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Guqingqing suspiciously asked, "May I ask the Lord, what is the meaning of this?" The Mu family's second ancestor did not answer, but Mu Qing sneered, "Do you know who I am?" Guqingqing and the high priest looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing said, "I am the Qing you want to kill, and my other identity is the young lord of the Mu family." What? The 2 trembled physically and mentally. The people in the city also immediately became restless. Qing is actually the young lord of the Mu family? Mu Qing smiled playfully, looked at the high priest of the Sky Scorpion tribe, and said, "Do you remember what I said to you in the Rolling Clouds mountain range?" The high priest's body suddenly trembled, and he quickly knelt in the void, saying, "I didn't know Qing was you. I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Please be magnanimous, spare my life." "Spare you? Haha. In the trading pavilion, you failed to kill and set up a trap, letting Elder Wu trick us into going to the Rolling Clouds mountain range. At that time, you and Guoming destroyed my Qi, broke my heart, and almost killed me. For someone who wanted to kill me, I let him go. Do you think I will be so merciful?" Mu Qing said playfully. I'm sorry. The high priest repeatedly kowtowed and apologized. That arrogant attitude of the past had vanished without a trace. At this moment, there was nothing in his heart, only regret. Guo Chengqing was the same. He never thought that Qin Dai was the young lord of the Mu family. The Mu family was mysterious and powerful. Even the Pill Pagoda was quite afraid, let alone the Sky Scorpion tribe. Chapter 875. You want to kill Ming'er? Guo Chengqing's face turned pale. Mu Qing glanced at Guo Chengqing and said, Do you need me to say it again? This? Guo Chengqing's heart was struggling. Leader, I told you before that you must discipline him well, but you didn't believe me and insisted on spoiling him. Now, he's provoked the Mu clan. What kind of existence is the Mu clan? Can you offend them? Hurry up and bring him here. Otherwise, it may be a disaster of extermination. Seeing this, the high priest transmitted his voice anxiously with a hint of reproach. Guo Chengqing's eyes trembled, and he bowed to Mu Qing and said, I'll bring him here right away. Please wait a moment. My patience has its limits. Mu Qing laughed. I understand. Guo Chengqing nodded, turned into a stream of light, and sped towards the city. Boom. At the same time, a mighty emperor's aura rushed out of the Mu clan's second ancestor's body, like an invisible giant wave, rushing towards the city. Wherever it passed, the people of the Scorpion tribe, except for the high priest and Guo Chengqing, were all imprisoned. In just a moment, the pressure spread to the entire city. The high priest's face suddenly changed, and he hurriedly said, Lord, have mercy. Don't worry. I won't do it now. Just to prevent some people from having crooked ideas, the Mu clan's second ancestor said. Hearing these words, Guo Chengqing, who was flying towards the city, trembled slightly. The only remaining hope was ruthlessly obliterated. Originally, he planned to wait until he found Guoming and let Guoming leave the tribe and go outside to hide for a while. But now, the pressure of the Mu clan's second ancestor controlled everyone in the Scorpion tribe. If he dared to do so, the millions of people in the tribe would definitely be doomed. Unfilial son. He roared in grief and indignation and quickly disappeared into the city. After a while, he twisted into Guoming and flew out of the city. There were two eye-catching palm prints on Guoming's face. Without a doubt, it must be Guo Chengqing. When he saw Mu Qing and the high priest, Guoming was also terrified. Obviously, he had already found out about Mu Qing's true identity. Guo Chengqing flew over and casually threw Guoming in front of Mu Qing and Mu Qing. He said, I'll pretend that I don't have this son. You can do whatever you want with him. Very good. Mu Qing nodded and looked down at Guoming. Guoming's face was pale with fright. He was so scared that he couldn't even speak. Actually, in the Forgotten Continent, not many people knew about the Mu family. But anyone who knew would know how powerful the Mu family was. This was a colossus that absolutely could not be provoked. Even if it's a super tribe, they still have to bow down in front of the Mu Jia. Why aren't you talking? Mu Qing asked suspiciously. Say what? Guoming asked. He was completely scared silly. Didn't you want to kill me? Now that I'm right in front of you, why aren't you making a move? Mu Qing said. Guoming panicked to the extreme. If he had known that Qin Dai was the young master of the Mu family, he wouldn't have dared to kill him even if he was beaten to death. Bang! Mu Qing raised his eyebrows, lifted his foot, and kicked Guoming's lower abdomen. Guoming immediately let out a shrill scream. He was kicked out and rolled into the void not far away. Crawl back here. Mu Qing looked down at him overbearingly. Guoming didn't dare to. He lay in the void and looked at Guo Chengqing and the high priest for help. However, Guo Chengqing and the high priest pretended not to see. Don't look at them. No one can save you now. Since you're not coming, I'll go find you. Mu Qing laughed. As he spoke, he took out a dagger. As he walked towards Guoming, he stretched out his hand and gently rubbed the blade. His attitude was extremely arrogant, but no one in the Scorpion tribe dared to speak. Such a big tribe was dead silent. Everyone was panicking. Don't come over. Guoming quivered and hurriedly waved his hand. He was so scared that he almost peed. If I don't go over just because you told me not to, then wouldn't I lose face? Mu Qing laughed. and stopped in front of Guoming. How you treated me at the Rolling Clouds mountain range, now I'll treat you the same. Are you ready? No. Guoming's body trembled violently. He hurriedly hugged Mu Qing's thigh and begged, just treat me as a dog. Let me go, okay? I can't raise a dog like you. Mu Qing shook his head and smiled. Suddenly, he picked up Guoming and stabbed the dagger in his hand into Guoming's lower abdomen. His sea of qi was destroyed on the spot. Fresh blood gushed out like a fountain. Ah! Guoming covered his lower abdomen and screamed again and again. His face was already distorted. And your heart. Mu Qing licked his lips and stabbed Guoming's heart again. I really didn't mean it. Please let me go. Guoming roared. Blood gushed out, and he had become a bloody man. But Mu Qing turned a deaf ear and grinned. I remember that you also slapped me a few times. His words fell. He put away the dagger, raised his arm, and slapped Guoming's face again and again. For a moment, blood splattered everywhere. Guoming's teeth were smashed into smithereens, and he spat them out along with blood. At the same time, Grand Canyon, Qin Feiyang, Wolf King, and the black-robed old woman were all looking in the direction of the Scorpion tribe, because they had all sensed the pressure of the Mu family's second ancestor. 2 people and 1 wolf could sense it. The great elder of the Scorpion tribe naturally could also sense it. At this moment, the great elder stood on the balcony of the small wooden house and looked in the direction of the tribe. His old eyes were full of surprise. Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of something. He retracted his gaze and looked at the great elder. Then he looked at the black-robed old woman and asked in a low voice, Old witch, what's your cultivation? What did you call me? The black-robed old woman angrily said. Qin Feiyang said, Old witch, is that wrong? The black-robed old woman gritted her teeth and said, Boy, when the cooperation is over, I promise to kill you with my own hands. Qin Feiyang impatiently said, We'll talk about it when the time comes. First answer me, what's your cultivation? What do you want to do? The black-robed old woman frowned. Qin Feiyang said, I want to see if you're as strong as I imagined. The black-robed old woman was stunned and suddenly became interested. She said, Then in your imagination, how strong am I? 1-star war emperor. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said. The black-robed old woman's forehead suddenly crawled with a row of black lines. She angrily said, You're underestimating me too much. Let me tell you, I'm a genuine 2-star war emperor. 2-star war emperor? Qin Feiyang was astonished and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to be so strong. However, compared to the great elder of the Scorpion tribe, you're still far behind. I'm indeed not his opponent, but I don't plan to fight him head-on. What's there to be afraid of? The black-robed old woman indifferently glanced at Qin Feiyang. Her gaze was as if she was looking at an idiot. What's there to be afraid of? Just wait, I'll let you die here. Qin Feiyang mumbled as a shocking murderous intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. Originally, he only wanted to snatch the herbs, but after knowing the black-robed old woman's true cultivation, he changed his mind. Not only did he have to snatch the herbs, but he also had to kill this old witch. Back then in the 9 great areas, this old witch had repeatedly tried to kill him. He hadn't forgotten this debt. Whoosh! And at this moment, the great elder of the Scorpion tribe jumped up from the balcony and stood high up in the sky. He continued to look in the direction of the tribe. Who exactly came to my Scorpion tribe? The pressure is so terrifying that I can even feel it from here. No, I have to go and take a look. The great elder muttered to himself for a while before turning into a stream of light and flying towards the tribe. He's finally gone. The black-robed old woman looked at the great elder's back with unconcealable joy in her eyes. Qin Feiyang's eyes were also surging with light. After the great elder disappeared, Qin Feiyang looked at the black-robed old woman and said with a smile, Go quickly, I'll keep a lookout for you here. Keep a lookout? The black-robed old woman was stunned and said in surprise, You're so kind? No matter what, we're in the same boat now. Of course we have to help each other. Go quickly, you can share half with me later. Qin Feiyang said. Okay, I'll definitely share it with you. The black-robed old woman nodded with a smile, but when she got up, Her eyes flashed with ridicule. Share? Naive. Then, she jumped up and rushed towards the medicine field below. Do you really think I'm so kind? Idiot. Looking at the black-robed old woman's back, Qin Feiyang's face also crawled with a trace of undisguised ridicule. He quickly took out an illusory form pill and threw it into his mouth. His appearance immediately began to change rapidly. Soon, an unfamiliar face appeared in front of Wolf King. Whose appearance are you disguised as? Wolf King was surprised. Remember the two white-robed youths who challenged me in the pill pagoda? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Remember, you said that they were also from the Scorpion tribe. Wolf King nodded. I'm now disguised as one of the two of them. Qin Feiyang said. What do you want to do? Wolf King was puzzled. Wait for a good show. Qin Feiyang smiled. Although it was slow, the whole process was less than 3 breaths. The black-robed old woman had already entered the medicine field and was frantically sweeping it. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, got up and looked at the direction where the Great Elder disappeared, and anxiously shouted, Great Elder, come quickly, someone is looting the medicine field. His voice was very loud and clear, resounding through the sky. Wolf King was stunned, and then suddenly realized, and his eyes revealed a look of ridicule. You go hide first. Qin Feiyang looked at Wolf King and said. Without waiting for Wolf King's response, he sent Wolf King to the castle. Then, he strode to the top of the mountain. What's the situation? At the same time, the black-robed old woman raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang, her old face full of shock. Who are you? How dare you touch the medicinal herbs of my Scorpion tribe? Qin Feiyang glared at the black-robed old woman and shouted with a stern voice. That angry look was really like a member of the Scorpion tribe who found a thief. What's going on? The black-robed old woman was stunned. Weren't Qin Feiyang and Wolf King on the lookout? How could a member of the Scorpion tribe appear? She didn't recognize that the person in front of her was Qin Feiyang. Whoosh! Just as the black-robed old woman was stunned, a white figure broke through the sky like lightning. It was the Great Elder of the Scorpion tribe. When he saw the black-robed old woman standing in the medicine field, his old face suddenly revealed a shocking killing intent. Courting death. Chapter 876. In an instant, the Grand Elder arrived in front of the black-robed old woman. That aged hand suddenly lifted up, roaring with battle chi as it slapped towards the black-robed old woman. Killing intent enveloped all directions. The black-robed old woman finally regained her senses, and her expression changed greatly. But at this moment, it was too late for her to dodge. She could only hurriedly raise her hand and meet the Grand Elder head-on. Boom! When the two palms collided, the black-robed old woman's body trembled, and then she flew out like a meteorite. Blood wildly spurted out from her mouth. Just one palm was enough to heavily injure the black-robed old woman. This was the difference between a 5-star combat emperor and a 2-star combat emperor. It's you, Mu Li. The Grand Elder finally saw the black-robed old woman's true face and angrily said, Why did you come to rob my Sky Scorpion tribe's medicine field? The black-robed old woman didn't reply. Using the impact of the impact, she turned around and fled in panic. Want to leave? Not so easy. The Grand Elder's hair stood on end in anger. Using a mysterious footwork, he quickly chased after the black-robed old woman. Looking at the Grand Elder's speed, Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. This Grand Elder actually grasped a perfect support-type battle art. He looked at the black-robed old woman again. He discovered that the old witch was also using a strange footwork. Moreover, her speed was 4 times faster than usual. This meant that the old witch also grasped a perfect support-type battle art. The foundation of these super forces really can't be underestimated, Qin Feiyang mumbled. But then, the corners of his mouth pursed into a bone-chilling cold. Although the black-robed old woman also had a perfect support-type battle art, the difference between her and the Sky Scorpion tribe's Grand Elder's cultivation was too great. She couldn't escape at all. And now, the furious Grand Elder definitely wouldn't let her go. Similarly, she couldn't find a reason to defend herself now. After all, she was caught red-handed by the Grand Elder. Therefore, she would definitely die. Boom. As expected, after the Grand Elder caught up to the black-robed old woman, he directly punched her back without any mercy. Pooh! The black-robed old woman spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the sky red. Her entire body was like a meteor, crashing into a giant mountain in front of her. The giant mountain collapsed on the spot. The rumbling sound was like rolling thunder, deafening to the ears. My Scorpio tribe has always been respectful to your Mu clan, but I didn't expect you to come and rob my medicinal field. You've gone too far. The great clan elder's killing intent soared to the heavens as he pointed his finger at the collapsed mountain peak. The black-robed old woman also appeared, but at this moment, she was covered in wounds and lying quietly in a pool of blood. She seemed to have lost all signs of life. The great clan elder glanced at her, then turned around and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. The anger on his face dissipated quite a bit, and he said with a smile, "Fortunately, you discovered it in time. Otherwise, our losses this time would be great." Yeah. Qin Feiyang nodded, but he was still a little nervous. After all, his opponent was a 5-star combat emperor. If they found out that he was an imposter, it would be disastrous. "Oh right, aren't you in the main tower? Why did you suddenly come back?" The Grand Elder looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Recently, I've been refining a kind of medicinal pill. I need a few 10,000-year-old herbs, so I came back to see if there are any in the medicinal field." Qin Feiyang calmly said, "What herbs? You don't have any in the main tower?" The great clan elder asked. Qin Feiyang was a little annoyed. Why does this old man have so many questions? Bang! But at this time, an earth-shattering loud noise came from the distance. Huh! Qin Feiyang and the great clan elder looked up at the same time. The loud noise came from the direction of the Scorpio tribe. It seems that they've already made their move. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Then he turned to look at the great clan elder and asked, "What's the situation?" This old man doesn't know. Just now, this old man has already felt a terrible pressure. The great clan elder said, "Pressure? Who dares to make trouble in my Scorpio tribe?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "This old man will go and take a look. You find the herbs you need and immediately return to the main tower." The great clan elder said, "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Then he looked at the black-robed old woman's body and said, "What should we do with her?" "Don't touch her body. After dealing with the tribe's affairs, this old man will take her and personally go to the Mujia. Let the Mujia give this old man a reasonable explanation." The great clan elder's eyes flashed coldly. Then he turned into a stream of light and quickly flew away. Phew! Looking at the great clan elder's departure, Qin Feiyang finally breathed a sigh of relief, because he really didn't know how to answer the great clan elder's question. After the great clan elder completely disappeared, he waved his hand and Lu Hong, the pangolin, wolf king, the winged snow eagle, and the black dragon snake all appeared. "Hurry up," Qin Feiyang said. Everyone looked at each other and immediately rushed to the medicinal field. Qin Feiyang also flew up and landed next to the black-robed old woman's body. Before, the black-robed old woman had already swept away a lot of medicinal herbs, so he naturally couldn't let go of these. He squatted on the ground, reached out and fumbled in the black-robed old woman's clothes, and soon found a chinkuan bag. Cough. But just as he was about to check the chinkuan bag, the black-robed old woman lying motionless on the ground suddenly coughed. "Not dead." Qin Feiyang's face changed, quickly stepped back a few steps, looking at the black-robed old woman in surprise. After a burst of coughing, the black-robed old woman's eyelids moved. "She's really not dead. Her life is so hard?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. Suddenly, his eyes flashed coldly, took out the Chang Shui, rushed forward and stabbed the black-robed old woman's sea of qi. "Ah!" The black-robed old woman screamed in pain, immediately opened her eyes, stared at Qin Feiyang with resentment and roared, "You damned little bastard! I'm going to kill you!" Qin Feiyang had not recovered his true appearance, so the black-robed old woman did not know that the young man squatting in front of her was Qin Feiyang. "Kill me?" Qin Feiyang slowly got up and said, "Now that your sea of qi has been destroyed and the chinkuan bag is in my hands, What do you have to kill me? Hearing it, the black-robed old woman's heart sank. Right, look at my memory. You don't seem to know who I am. Qin Fei Yang patted his head, took out a facial restoration pill, and threw it into his mouth. Soon, a familiar face appeared in the black-robed old woman's line of sight. It's you. The black-robed old woman's eyes trembled. That's right, it's me. You didn't expect that you would be tricked by me so miserably? Qin Fei Yang grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Damn it, we are now in a cooperative relationship? The black-robed old woman angrily said. So what? Anyway, sooner or later, we will fall out. So it's better to find an opportunity now and kill one first. What's more, I also know that you will certainly not share the medicinal herbs with me. In that case, I can only rely on my own ability to rob. Now, all the medicinal herbs here are mine. Qin Fei Yang laughed. The black-robed old woman glanced at Lu Hong and the others who were frantically sweeping the place, gritted her teeth and said, The second ancestor will not let you go. Don't worry. Your second ancestor will not know that I killed you. When the time comes, I will tell him that the great elder of the Scorpion tribe killed you. Moreover, even if he knows, I don't care. Don't take yourself too seriously. You are just a housekeeper. The Mu Jia will not hurt me because of you. Qin Fei Yang laughed, rubbing Chang Shue's blade. His eyes flashed with killing intent. What do you want to do? Seeing this, the black-robed old woman hurriedly shouted. Her blood-stained face was full of panic. Qin Fei Yang grinned and said, What do you think I want to do? Don't kill me. The black-robed old woman panicked. She never thought that one day she would beg Qin Fei Yang for mercy. Qin Fei Yang was stunned and jokingly said, Then give me a reason not to kill you. The black-robed old woman hesitated. She really couldn't find a reason for a while. How about this? If you are willing to tell me the origin and details of the Mu Jia, I can spare your life. Qin Fei Yang said. Then you'd better kill me. The black-robed old woman said. Her eyes were filled with a determined light. Well, as you wish. Qin Fei Yang's eyes were stunned. His big hand suddenly waved. The Chang Shui in his hand, like a sharp arrow, instantly went into the black-robed old woman's eyebrows. With a mournful scream, the black-robed old woman died on the spot. This time she really died. Qin Fei Yang looked down at her, his eyebrows tightly knitted together. She would rather die than tell him the details of the Mu Jia. What secret is this Mu Jia hiding? Shua. At this time, Wolf King came to Qin Fei Yang's side and said, Did you get anything? Qin Fei Yang shook his head. It seems that we have to rely on Fatso and Yinwei to investigate. After saying this, the Wolf King continued to sweep through the medicinal herbs. Qin Fei Yang bent down and pulled out the Chang Shui, then took out the black-robed old woman's Chinquan bag to check. He wanted to see if he could find any information about the Mu Jia in this Chinquan bag, but in the end, he was disappointed. In this Chinquan bag, except for various herbs, pills, gold coins, and some ordinary weapons, there was nothing else. Boom. Gotcha. Suddenly, in the distance, there was another deafening noise. Qin Fei Yang put away the Chang Shui and the Chinquan bag, jumped into the sky, looked up, and suddenly turned pale with fright. He saw that the giant peaks in the distance were constantly collapsing. The earth was trembling and sinking. Waves of magma erupted from the ground, like pillars of fire, rushed into the sky, illuminating half of the sky. From afar, it was like the scene of the end of the world. Moreover, Qin Fei Yang also heard a metallic sound and the loud sound of the mountains collapsing and the earth cracking. It was obvious. Someone took out a sacred weapon, and more than one. He could even feel the sacred power and sharpness of those sacred weapons. Kill for me. Not long after, a loud and clear roar exploded in the area, and a murderous aura filled the sky. This was the voice of the Mu Jia's second ancestor. Boom! The moment the Mu Jia's second ancestor's shout sounded, in all directions of the Sky Scorpion mountain range, a terrifying emperor's aura erupted. Qin Fei Yang couldn't help but tremble. Obviously, the 30 strong men surrounding the Sky Scorpion mountain range also made their move. This also means that the battle between the Mu Jia and the Sky Scorpion tribe has officially begun. Hurry up. Qin Feiyong withdrew his gaze and looked down at Lu Hong and the others, urging them. Because there is still a place he must go. Chapter 877. As a super tribe that had existed for so many years, the Scorpion tribe must have accumulated a lot of treasures. About 100 breaths later, Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts landed beside Qin Feiyong one after another. Their eyes were filled with unparalleled excitement. Qin Feiyong asked, "Are we done?" Lu Hong nodded. "The medicinal herbs we harvested this time can't be calculated with numbers. There were all kinds of rare medicinal herbs, and most of them were 10,000 years old. In terms of value, it was no exaggeration to say that it was more than what they had accumulated over the years." "Very good." Qin Feiyong was also overjoyed. He said, "Except for the white-eyed wolf, all of you go to the castle and sort it out as soon as possible." "Okay." Lu Hong, the black dragon snake, and the other beasts nodded. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. After sending everyone to the castle, he took a facial restoration pill and restored his original appearance. Then, he rushed out of the canyon with Wolf King and rushed toward the Scorpion tribe. They were very fast. In less than 100 breaths, they arrived in front of a majestic mountain ridge. Here, the battle fluctuations were even more obvious. The mountain ridge, which was hundreds of feet tall, was also trembling violently. Cracks appeared on it, and it would collapse at any time. Whoosh! A man and a wolf rushed up like lightning. They stood at a commanding height and looked ahead. What appeared before their eyes was a scene that resembled Azura hell. The mountain was collapsing, the ground was cracking, and the people were in a terrible situation. Terrifying waves of air rolled in the void like a tsunami. There were many ferocious beasts in the mountain range, and they were not weak. There were even holy beasts. But under the waves of air, they were like withered trees, unable to withstand a single blow. As far as the eye could see, there was blood everywhere. Wails and cries were everywhere, and standing here, they could already faintly see the city of the Scorpion tribe, but it was very blurry. "Let's go." Qin Feiyong waved his hand and was about to jump down from the mountain ridge and approach the city. Whoosh! But at this moment, an ear-piercing sound broke through the air. The two of them turned their heads and saw a black streak of light carrying a destructive aura shooting towards them from afar. "What is it?" Wolf King was bewildered. "It's a saint artifact." Qin Feiyong took a closer look and turned pale with fright. It was a heavenly halberd that was more than 3 meters long. Its entire body was as black as ink, and it emitted a blazing black light. Logically speaking, Qin Feiyong should be happy that a saint artifact was flying towards him. However, this saint artifact was currently in a state of complete recovery. If he were to descend here, with his and Wolf King's current cultivation, they would not be able to stop him. They might even be killed on the spot, and not even their bones would be left. Therefore, now is not the time to be hot-headed and run to catch that sky piercer. Boom! Crack! In front of the man and the wolf, there were several giant peaks that were several thousand feet tall. However, the heavenly halberd was like a hot knife through butter as it smashed everything into smithereens. Then, it smashed into the mountain below their feet. Whoosh! Qin Feiyong did not dare to hesitate. He grabbed Wolf King and hid in the ancient castle. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shaking loud noise, the place was suddenly covered in dust and smoke. About 10 breaths passed. The man and the wolf appeared again. The mountain had disappeared, and there was a huge sinkhole on the ground. Dust and smoke were everywhere. Qin Feiyong waved his sleeves, and a gust of wind suddenly rose in this place. The dust and smoke were quickly blown away. Next, the man and the wolf looked at the bottom of the sinkhole. They saw that the heavenly halberd was now inserted into the soil at the bottom. The sharpness and saint aura that it emitted previously had disappeared. Its entire body was dim and lightless. What's the situation? Wolf King was bewildered. I think this saint artifact should belong to the Scorpion tribe, and the owner of this saint artifact may have met with misfortune. Qin Feiyong pondered. Then what are we waiting for? Heard of it. Wolf King's eyes glowed with a green light, as he rushed to the bottom of the sinkhole. Whoosh! However, at this moment, another ear-piercing sound was heard. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He quickly raised his head and looked over. He saw a black figure rushing over. Wolf King also noticed it. He quickly landed at the bottom of the sinkhole and directly spat a mouthful of blood on the heavenly halberd. The heavenly halberd also emitted a layer of hazy bloodlight. It was dripping blood to recognize its owner. When the bloodlight dissipated, the blood contract was completed. "I've made a fortune." Wolf King smiled and waved his paw. The heavenly halberd turned into a stream of light and entered his sea of qi. Next, he jumped up and landed next to Qin Feiyang. He looked up at the black figure. There was a trace of vigilance between the man and the wolf. As the distance got closer and closer, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King finally saw the man's true face. It was a strong man in black. His body was covered in blood and filled with an astonishing murderous aura, but they couldn't find a single wound on his body. Obviously, the blood was someone else's. Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King also secretly heaved a sigh of relief, because this man was not from the Scorpio tribe. He was one of the 30 strong men of the Mujia. The strong man in black also found Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. Whoosh! He landed in front of Qin Feiyang and looked at the sinkhole next to him. "Did you see a heavenly halberd flying over?" The man and the wolf were shocked. It turned out that this man was chasing after the heavenly halberd. "What heavenly halberd? I didn't see it." The man and the wolf shook their heads at the same time. "You didn't see it? But why do I feel the aura of a sacred tool here?" The strong man in black was suspicious. He seemed to suspect that Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were lying. "What? That heavenly halberd is a sacred tool?" Wolf King pretended to be surprised and then angrily said, "What do you mean? Are you suspecting that we stole your sacred tool?" Then he added, "Don't you know that we also have sacred tools?" "Don't be rude," Qin Feiyang reprimanded. Soon after, he looked at the black-clothed brawny man and said with a smile, "Not long ago, we encountered a member of the Scorpion tribe. His strength was slightly stronger than ours, so we took out our saint artifacts to fight with him. This crater was created during our fight." "Is that really the case?" the strong man in black murmured. Of course, he also knew that Qin Feiyang had 2 sacred tools. Among them, the heavenly thunder sword originally belonged to the Mujia. But now, except for the sacred tool and Qin Feiyang's aura, he didn't sense anyone else's aura. This Mujia's people are really not easy to fool. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. He hurriedly changed the topic. "What's the situation of the Scorpio tribe?" "The overall situation is under control." The strong man in black only said this sentence, showing a full domineering aura. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "Although the situation is under your control, you still have to be careful. Don't let any of them escape. You can rest assured. With the second ancestor here, not to mention the people of the Scorpio tribe, even a fly can't escape from the Scorpio mountain range." The strong man in black said confidently, "That's good." Qin Feiyang pretended to be relieved. In fact, whether this matter was exposed or not, it didn't have much to do with him. Because, from entering the Scorpio mountain range until now, except for the people of the Mujia, the people of the Scorpio tribe had never seen him. In other words, the Scorpio tribe didn't know that he existed. So, even if this matter was exposed, the Pill Tower and other tribes would only look for the Mujia and not him. "You really didn't see the halberd?" the strong man in black asked again. "Are we that untrustworthy?" "We really didn't." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. "Well, you guys be careful," the black-clothed brawny man said, then turned around and flew away. Qin Feiyang seemed to think of something and asked loudly, "By the way, what is Mu Qing doing now?" The young master went to the treasure house of the Scorpio tribe. The strong man in black answered without looking back. "Damn, he's 1 step ahead of us," Wolf King said angrily. "If we can think of it, he must have thought of it too." Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. Mu Qing went to the treasure house. It was meaningless for them to go now, because by the time they rushed there, Mu Qing would have already swept away everything. However, even if they didn't get the treasures in the treasure house, they didn't lose too much. After all, they harvested the medicinal herbs of the entire medicinal field and also got an extra sacred tool. What should we do next? Wolf King asked. We can't get involved in the battle between the Scorpio tribe and the Mujia. The medicinal field and the treasure house are gone. There's nothing we can do now. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said, let's just go back and retreat. Yes, we need to cultivate well. Wolf King nodded. The people they met now are getting stronger and stronger. With their strength, they can no longer control the overall situation. The battle in the Scorpio tribe continued. Corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. But all this had nothing to do with Qin Feiyong. He opened a portal and sent Wolf King to the castle and went straight back to the main tower. Shortly after Qin Feiyong went back, Fatso also rushed back to the alchemy room. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong was washing up. Seeing Fatso's anxious look, he couldn't help but ask. Fatso said, hurry up and refine another small fortune pill. Huh? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He wiped the water off his face and turned to look at Fatso. He frowned. Did you fail? Fatso nodded. Old Yan's character is not very good. He failed to open the 7th floor. The 7th floor is the ultimate realm of the War Saint. That's too much. This small fortune pill only has a 60% success rate. Being able to open the 6th floor is already a miracle. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at Fatso and strode towards the alchemy room. Fatso followed and asked, what's the situation in the Scorpio tribe? Qin Feiyong said, I don't know, but according to the Mujia, there shouldn't be any accidents. You don't know? Fatty was startled and asked suspiciously, didn't you go too? How can you not know? Qin Feiyong said, I went, but I didn't participate in the battle. I didn't go to the Scorpio tribe. Then what are you doing? Fatso wondered. I looted the medicinal herbs in the Scorpio tribe's medicinal field and got a sacred tool. Qin Feiyong laughed. Damn, then didn't you make a lot of money? Fatso was stunned. Chapter 878. It's a huge profit. Qin Feiyong laughed and said, where did you guys help Yinwei open the door of potential? Fire Phoenix Mountain Range. Fat Lord is not sure what kind of place it is, but according to Li He, it is a primordial forest, extremely dangerous, and basically no one goes there. Fatso said. While the two of them were talking, they had already entered the alchemy room. Fatso took out a set of medicinal ingredients for the small creation pill. Qin Feiyong closed his eyes and concentrated for a moment before opening the furnace to refine the pill. During the process of refining the pill, Fatso did not make the slightest sound. Soon, a small creation pill was out of the furnace. Qin Feiyong threw it to Fatso and said, quickly send it to him. No rush, no rush. He is still recuperating from his injuries. It will take a while before he can continue to open it. First, tell me the specific situation of the Scorpio mountain range. Fatso was like a curious baby, looking at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. He walked into the lounge and simply said, haha, that old witch was actually tricked so miserably by you. It's really satisfying. After listening, Fatso couldn't help but laugh out loud. Although we have gotten rid of a scourge, it is also a great pity that we didn't get the treasures of the Scorpio tribe. Qin Feiyong shook his head. In this world, there are gains and losses. Moreover, the people that the Mu clan sent out this time are all War King. Even if Mu Qing didn't go, you might not be able to snatch the treasures from the treasury under their noses. At that time, you might even attract a lot of attention, Fatso said. Qin Feiyong nodded and said with a smile, then what was Li He's reaction when he saw the potential pills? 2 words to describe it, shock. Right now, he can't wait to swear a blood oath with you and become sworn brothers. Fatso laughed. Qin Feiyong asked, then what's your next plan? I have already told Li He about this matter, and he has also expressed that he will do his best to assist me. He has also allowed me and Yinwei to work in the trading pavilion, Fatso said. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyong nodded and said, that's good too. If you work in the trading pavilion, you'll be able to notice the mysterious person buying the herbs. Next, he frowned and said, does Li He know nothing about this person? It's not like you don't know about the trading pavilion. As long as there's money to be made, who cares who you are? However, Leahy did mention that when this person went to purchase medicinal ingredients in the past, he would always refer to himself as Mr. Wan. In other words, his surname is Wan. But Fat Lord thinks that this shouldn't be true. Fatso said, "Don't make wild guesses before the truth is out." Qin Feiyong said with a smile, "Yes, then Fat Lord will go. If there's any news, Fat Lord will inform you immediately." Fatso got up and said. Qin Feiyong nodded and suddenly said, "By the way, go and find out if there's any dragon blood in the Central Divine Kingdom." Dragon blood? Fatso was stunned and said, "No problem." After saying that, he opened the portal and left. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and pondered for a moment. He entered the castle and concentrated on copying the last stroke of the kill formula. As for Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts, they were all immersed in sorting out the medicinal ingredients. The entire castle was filled with a strong medicinal fragrance. Midnight. Dong. A series of rapid knocks on the door came into the castle. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows, took a disguise pill, and changed into the appearance of Ancestor Mu. Then he left the castle, walked to the door, and opened the stone door. A familiar face suddenly entered his line of sight. It was Mu Qing, but it was also Mu Qing in disguise. Mu Qing glanced at Qin Feiyong. Without waiting for Qin Feiyong to speak, she directly walked into the alchemy room. Her face was a little ugly. Qin Feiyong closed the stone door and turned to look at Mu Qing. He frowned and said, "Did an accident happen?" "No. The entire Scorpion tribe, except for the people outside, is dead," Mu Qing said. "This is a good thing. It's worth being happy. Why do you still have a long face?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. "Elderly was killed," Mu Qing said in a low voice. Qin Feiyong's heart trembled. He nodded and said, "I know. He was killed by the great elder of the Scorpion tribe." Mu Qing suddenly shouted, "Since you know, why don't you help her?" "Help her? Are you kidding? The great elder of the Scorpion tribe is a 5-star combat emperor. With my strength, it's not enough to fill the gaps between his teeth." Qin Feiyong said, "I know you're not a match for the great elder of the Scorpion tribe, but you can take Elder Li and hide in the castle." Mu Qing said angrily, "It's easy for you to say. The situation was critical. I didn't have time to take her to the castle. Besides, do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Why should I help her?" Qin Feiyong sneered. Mu Qing said in a low voice, "So, all the herbs in the herb field have also fallen into your hands." "Yes. Didn't you also get the treasures of the Scorpion tribe?" "We're dividing the benefits equally," Qin Feiyong said. "Dividing the benefits equally? Without the help of the Mu family, you can't even enter the Central Divine Kingdom, let alone go to the Scorpion Mountain Range. Tell me, what right do you have to talk to me about dividing the benefits equally?" Mu Qing was a little flustered and exasperated. Besides, he always felt that Mu Li's death was not that simple. "Yes, I can enter the Central Divine Kingdom thanks to the help of the Mu family, but you want to use me to achieve your goal, don't you? To put it bluntly, we're using each other. We're all adults. Don't be so childish, okay?" Qin Feiyong said helplessly. "I'm childish?" Mu Qing was furious. He stepped forward, grabbed Qin Feiyong's clothes, and shouted, "I'm telling you, don't be arrogant with me. This is the Central Divine Kingdom, not the Great Qin Empire. If I want to kill you, it's as easy as killing an ant. Do you understand?" Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and kicked. Mu Qing was kicked away on the spot and hit the wall behind him. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Then, Qin Feiyong tidied his clothes and glanced indifferently at Mu Qing, who was sitting on the ground, and said, "I'm also telling you, I dare to kill you now, so you'd better not provoke me again." "You." Mu Qing was furious, but looking at Qin Feiyong's calm expression, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. There was a kind of person in the world. The more calm he appeared, the more terrifying he was. And Qin Feiyong was this kind of person. He suppressed his anger, got up, and said, "Then tell me, did you deliberately set up Elder Li's death?" Qin Feiyong couldn't help but feel a headache. This guy was a little too smart. "Answer me, did you?" Mu Qing shouted. Yes, it was me. I also took the divine artifact. Qin Feiyang nodded. He originally wanted to hide it from Mu Qing, but now he was really not in the mood. Even if Mu Qing knew, what could he do? It didn't matter. Okay, you win. Mu Qing gritted his teeth and glared at Qin Feiyang, then turned around and rushed out of the door. Naive. Qin Feiyang shook his head. After closing the stone door, he entered the castle and continued to copy the last stroke of the kill formula. However, from this point, it could be seen that the former housekeeper of the Mu family still had a high position in Mu Qing's heart. Alchemy room number 9. In the lounge, Mu Qing held the image crystal in his hand and sat on the chair, his face gloomy to the extreme. Buzz. After a while, the shadow of the Mu family's second ancestor appeared and asked, "How did it go?" "It was he who killed elderly." Mu Qing said word by word, his eyes full of murderous intent. "This damn little beast. I should have listened to you and not let him go to the medicine field." The Mu family's second ancestor was furious. Mu Qing said, "I must avenge elderly Qing. I understand how you feel. Muli has been taking care of you since you were a child, and you also see her as your grandmother. But remember not to be impulsive. You must think of the overall situation. You can rest assured that when our partnership with him is over, I will find a chance to catch him and let you end his dog life with your own hands." The Mu family's second ancestor said. "Good." Mu Qing nodded. "Then have you thought about how to frame that mysterious woman?" "This is very simple. I will arrange it. Don't worry about it. Just focus on your cultivation. Don't let the gap between you and Qin Feiyang get bigger and bigger." The Mu family's second ancestor said. "I will. By the way, should we also get rid of the remnants of the Scorpion tribe in the main tower?" Mu Qing asked. "No need. These people are very young. They can't make any big waves. Of course, if there is a chance, we can get rid of them." The Mu family's second ancestor laughed. Not long after the conversation between the two ended, under the moonlight, an old man in purple clothes descended over a courtyard. It was the Mu family's second ancestor. This courtyard was very unique. It was located in the middle of a lake. The lake water was clear, and under the moonlight, it shimmered with layers of light. At this time, it was late at night, and the place was silent. However, in the attic of the courtyard, there were wisps of candlelight coming out from a window. The Mu family's second ancestor landed in front of the window and smiled. "Brother Yu, this Mu has come to visit." Soon after, the window opened, and a middle-aged man stood in front of it. This person was about 30 or 40 years old. His body was thin, with long snow-white hair, and his body was also wearing a white robe, spotless. In his hand, he was holding an ancient book, and his whole person exuded a scholarly aura. Brother Mu? When he saw the Mu family's second ancestor, the middle-aged man was a little surprised. But then he smiled. "Brother Mu, please come in." "No need. This time, this old man came to tell you a bad news," the Mu family's second ancestor said, his face gloomy. "What news can make Brother Mu come to me in person?" The middle-aged man was curious. The Mu family's second ancestor said in a deep voice, "The Scorpion tribe was exterminated." Thud. The ancient book in the middle-aged man's hand suddenly fell to the ground. "Who did it?" he asked. His whole body's temperament suddenly changed. If it was before, he was like a scholar. But at this moment, he was like the incarnation of a sharp sword, exuding a shocking sharpness. "A woman." The Mu family's second ancestor waved his hand, and his battle chi surged, condensing the shadow of the mysterious madam. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and said, "Isn't she the one who helped Qin Feiyang time and time again?" "Yes. Not long ago, a clansman of the Mu family was looking for medicinal herbs near the Scorpion Mountain range. Suddenly, he heard the sound of fighting in the Scorpion tribe, so he quietly sneaked over. At that time, he saw with his own eyes that this woman ruthlessly slaughtered the entire Scorpion tribe. When this old man learned of this, he was extremely shocked and immediately went to check in person, and sure enough, no one was alive. Chapter 879. The middle-aged man's eyes turned cold. The Mu family's second ancestor had personally confirmed it. Thank you, Brother Mu, for coming to inform me. I will send someone to investigate the Scorpion tribe. The middle-aged man said. The extermination of a super tribe was no small matter. Once the news spread, it would cause an unprecedented turmoil in the central divine kingdom. Good. This old man will go back first. If there is anything the Mu family can help with, Brother Yu, please don't hesitate to ask. Although my Mu family is not a native of the Forgotten Continent, we will not tolerate this kind of crazy criminal. The Mu family's second ancestor's words were powerful and righteous. The middle-aged man didn't know the truth, otherwise he would have laughed in his heart. The middle-aged man cupped his hands and smiled. Thank you, then I won't send you off. Goodbye. The Mu family's second ancestor also cupped his hands and said a few words. He then turned around and opened the portal, quickly leaving. Who is this mysterious woman, and why did she want to exterminate the Scorpion tribe? After the portal disappeared, the middle-aged man lowered his head, his brows tightly knitted together. Gongsun Bei, quickly come see me. A moment later, he looked at the dark void outside the window and shouted. In less than 10 breaths, a graceful young man in purple holding a jade flute flashed through the night sky like lightning and landed in front of the middle-aged man. Greetings, Chief Tower Master. The young man in purple bowed, but there was a cynical smile on his face. That's right. This elegant middle-aged man was the ruler of the Forgotten Continent, the Chief Tower Master. It could even be said that he was the ruler of the Forgotten Continent. The Chief Tower Master said, Go to the Scorpion tribe immediately. Gongsun Bei was confused. Why are you going to the Scorpion tribe so late at night? Just now, the Mu family's second ancestor came to find me and told me that the Scorpion tribe was exterminated. The Chief Tower Master said in a deep voice. What? Gongsun Bei's expression changed. Who did it? According to the Mu family's second ancestor, it was the mysterious woman who repeatedly helped Qin Feiyang. The Chief Tower Master said. This. Gongsun Bei raised his eyebrows. Sir, there is something I don't know if I should say. Speak your mind. The Chief Tower Master looked at him suspiciously. Although the Mu family has been in our Forgotten Continent for many years, they are still outsiders. Furthermore, none of us know their true origins. Thus, you can't completely trust their words. Gongsun Bei said. Chief Pagoda Master said with a frown. You mean, no. Sir, please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying this because I'm suspecting that the Scorpion tribe was destroyed by the Mu Jia. I'm just reminding you to guard against them in the future. Gongsun Bei hurriedly waved his hands. Chief Pagoda Master pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, All right, I will remember it. Hurry up and go. Gongsun Bei opened a portal, but then he thought of something and asked, If the Scorpion tribe is really annihilated, should we seal the news? How can such a big matter be sealed? Moreover, there are still many clansmen of the Scorpion tribe outside. The Chief Pagoda Master smiled bitterly. I understand. Gongsun Bei nodded, then turned and stepped into the portal, quickly disappearing. Qin Feiyang. Just who are you? Why are all the things that have happened recently related to you? Chief Pagoda Master looked up at the waning moon in the sky and muttered to himself. For a moment, his mind was in a mess. Time flew by. Early morning. The sun rose, full of vigor. Everything in the world that had slept for a night gradually woke up at this moment. Have you heard? The Scorpion tribe was annihilated. What? How is this possible? It's true. Before the sun rose, I heard that the Scorpion tribe was annihilated. At first, I didn't believe it either, but when I went to the Scorpion mountain range myself, I was completely shocked. The entire Scorpion tribe was covered in broken corpses, and the ground was stained with blood. I also went to take a look. The Scorpio tribe, which was originally glorious and prosperous, turned into an Azura hell overnight. Yes, the city is gone, and not a single survivor is left. Only a sea of corpses is left. It's too terrifying. Early in the morning, the news of the Scorpion tribe being annihilated spread throughout the divine city. Without a doubt, people were boiling. At the same time, hearing this shocking news, the world was also horrified. One must know. The Scorpion tribe was one of the top 10 super tribes. How could it be annihilated? How sensational was this news? In less than half an hour, this news spread to every corner of the divine city. Where there were people, they were discussing this matter. Moreover, this news was like a plague that was unstoppable and spread outside the divine city. Half a day later, whether it was those large and small tribes or other cities, they all knew about this and were all shocked. It was too shocking. In history, this was the first time a super tribe was annihilated, and it was annihilated by one person. I really didn't expect it to be related to this Qin Feiyang again. What is this person trying to do? Could it be that he has already sneaked into the central divine kingdom? Will he still deal with other super tribes? A companion by his side can annihilate a super tribe. How terrifying is his background? There was no suspense. When this news spread, the central divine kingdom fell into chaos. Everyone was in danger, especially the other 9 super tribes. They were all afraid of becoming Qin Feiyang's next target. And because of the relationship between the mysterious lady and Qin Feiyang, everyone also thought that it was Qin Feiyang's idea to annihilate the Scorpion tribe. In the end, although it was to frame the mysterious lady, this black pot still had to be carried by Qin Feiyang. Knowing this situation, Qin Feiyang was also quite helpless. After scheming and scheming, in the end, it was him who was schemed against. Thinking about it, he felt funny. However, he didn't care too much. Anyway, his original intention was to drag the mysterious lady down, and now he had achieved it. In the assessment hall, as usual, Elder Wu was sitting alone on the armchair, closing his eyes to recuperate. Although the heavenly Scorpion tribe isn't anything good, that mysterious woman killed all of their clansmen. Her actions are a bit too extreme. Yes, I don't know how the Scorpion tribe offended that woman. You're wrong. To be exact, how did they offend Qin Feiyang? Because this must be Qin Feiyang's idea. This guy not only took away the alchemy fire of our 9 regions, but also annihilated the Scorpion tribe. What is he planning? To be honest, I really want to see him in person and see if he has 3 heads and 6 arms. Several disciples passed by the square and kept talking. What? The Scorpion tribe was annihilated? The discussion was heard by Elder Wu. He was slightly stunned, then suddenly stood up, took a step, and instantly landed in front of those disciples. Greetings, Elder Wu. The disciples were stunned for a moment before they hurriedly bowed in greeting. You just said that the Scorpion tribe was annihilated. Is it true? Elder Wu asked, looking a little nervous. Yes. It is said that no one escaped. Those disciples nodded. Elder Wu was in a daze and asked, it was said? When did it happen? It happened last night. There are rumors that it was the mysterious lady beside Qin Feiyang, but no one has come out to confirm whether it was her or not. Those disciples said, last night. Elder Wu's eyes trembled slightly. He remembered that he went to Qin Feiyang and asked for their help yesterday, and the Scorpion tribe was annihilated last night. Was this a coincidence? If it was not a coincidence, the identity of these 2 people, thinking of this, he couldn't help but shiver, and cold sweat was already dripping under his clothes. Elder, is there anything else? Those disciples looked at him suspiciously. After Elder Wu came back to his senses, he waved his hand absent-mindedly and said, Nothing, you can go. After those disciples left, Elder Wu lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then rushed into the sky, turned into a stream of light, and rushed into the depths of the main pagoda. At the same time, Qin Feiyang, bitch, if I, Guofeng, don't kill you, I'm not human. On the 3rd peak of the Warrior Mountain Range, an angry roar resounded. I, Guoyun, swear that even if I have to go to heaven or hell, I will find you and bury you with the millions of people of the Scorpion tribe. The 3rd pagoda of the Pill Pagoda also exploded with an angry roar. Guofeng was the king of the 3rd peak of the Warrior Mountain Range. Guoyun was the king of the 3rd pagoda of the Pill Pagoda. Mo Feng had said before that these 2 people were also from the Scorpion tribe. Millions of their tribesmen died in vain. Naturally, they couldn't accept it. Not only these 2, but all the disciples of the Scorpion tribe seemed to have gone crazy at this moment. Everyone of the Scorpion tribe, gather at the combat arena immediately. Soon, Guo Yun's voice sounded again, spreading in all directions. Whoosh! Immediately, one figure after another flew out from the Tin Pill Pagoda S, as well as the Tin Main Peaks, and gathered towards the fighting arena. There were men and women, all of them looking young with outstanding temperaments. However, at this moment, there was an unresolvable sadness between their brows. Fighting arena. Located between the martial artist mountain range and the Pill Pagoda, it occupied an area of several miles. It was the place where the disciples of the main pagoda sparred with each other or settled their personal grudges. Swish. Two purple-clothed youths were the first to appear in the fighting arena. Both of them were as handsome as jade, outstanding and peerless. Their cultivations were both at the peak of the 9-star war sect. They stood side by side in the air above the fighting arena, their bodies emitting an awe-inspiring aura of a king. After the two of them, the others also rushed over and gathered in the fighting arena. Finally, there were thousands of people gathered here. Guo Yun scanned the thousands of people and said, "Everyone, you should all know about this bad news." Thousands of people nodded at the same time. Their entire bodies were filled with grief and a monstrous killing intent. Guo Yun, Guo Feng, what are you trying to do? Accompanied by a loud shout, a white-haired old man descended into the air above the fighting arena. Chapter 880. The old man was Elder Wu. He happened to pass by and saw Guo Yun and Guo Feng gathering the disciples of the Scorpion tribe. He realized that something was wrong and hurried to stop them. Guo Yun and Guo Feng turned to look at Elder Wu. "Elder, we don't want to do anything. We just want to go back and collect the corpses of our people." "Yes, they are our closest relatives. Our parents are also here. We can't just let their corpses be exposed in the wilderness." Their eyes were bloodshot, and they were practically roaring out these words. Elder Wu glanced at the two, then at the thousands of Scorpion tribe members below. In the end, he retracted his pressure and waved his hand. "Go, but remember, don't do anything rash." "Thank you, Elder." The thousands of people bowed in unison, then opened the portals and stepped in one after another. Sigh. Elder Wu sighed deeply as he stared at the departing figures before he continued to head deeper into the forest. There were some things he had to understand. A moment later, he entered the sacred land and landed in front of the Chief Tower Master's courtyard. He bowed and said, "Wu Daping requests an audience with the Chief Tower Master. Come in." A calm voice could be heard coming from the pagoda. Elder Wu pushed the door open and strode into the pavilion. In the guest hall, the Chief Tower Master leaned back in his chair with his eyes closed. There was a trace of worry between his brows. "Greetings, Lord." Elder Wu walked to the Chief Tower Master and bowed. "Is there something you need from me?" The Chief Tower Master asked without opening his eyes. "I just heard that the Scorpion tribe was wiped out last night. The culprit was the mysterious woman by Qin Feiyang's side. Is this true?" Elder Wu asked respectfully. The Chief Tower Master was silent for a while before saying, "I can't be sure about this." Elder Wu was suspicious. When the incident happened last night, only the Mu family was present. However, I don't dare to fully believe the Mu family's words, so we still need to investigate. The Chief Tower Master said, "The Mu family?" Elder Wu was stunned and frowned. Since the Mu family happened to be at the Scorpion tribe, why didn't they help? That mysterious woman is very powerful. Would ordinary people dare to stop her? However, I have already asked Gongsun Bei to search the Sky Scorpion mountain range carefully to see if there are any other witnesses. That's not right. Why are you so concerned about this? Could it be that you have some kind of relationship with the Scorpion tribe? Chief Tower Master asked suspiciously. "We do have some friendship, but it has nothing to do with that. I just want to find out if the rumors outside are true or false." Elder Wu said. Chief Pagoda Master nodded and waved his hand. "If there is nothing else, you may leave." "Yes." Elder Wu replied respectfully before he turned around and left. Not long after Elder Wu left, a purple-clothed youth appeared in front of the Chief Pagoda Master. It was Gongsun Bei. "How's the investigation going?" The Chief Tower Master finally opened his eyes. His eyes flickered with anticipation. I've searched the area within a radius of several hundred miles. There's not a single survivor. Gongsun Bei shook his head. What about the ferocious beast? I remember that the ferocious beasts of the Sky Scorpion mountain range are all very strong. There are even saint beasts. Their intelligence won't be lower than ours. Have you asked them? The chief tower master frowned. Of course, I thought of this, but let alone a ferocious beast, there wasn't even a bug. Even the ferocious beasts outside the Scorpion mountain range were all killed. In short, there's nothing. Gongsun Bei sighed. The chief pagoda master frowned. No. Suddenly, he stood up with a trace of surprise in his eyes. What's wrong? Gongsun Bei was surprised. There's only one reason to kill all these ferocious beasts. That's to hide something. If the Scorpion tribe was really destroyed by that mysterious woman, is there a need for her to hide? Although I haven't seen this woman, it's not difficult to judge from her actions in the 9 regions that she's a very arrogant person. I don't think she would do something so unnecessary.
The chief pagoda master analyzed.
This, Gongsun Bei pondered for a while and said, maybe she has some secret conspiracy that she doesn't want people to know? The chief pagoda master thought about it carefully and nodded. It's not impossible. Then, he looked up at Gongsun Bei and said, we can't take this matter lightly. While looking for that mysterious woman, we must also pay attention to the Mu family's movements. My lord, are you beginning to suspect the Mu family? Gongsun Bei asked. Not suspect, but to guard against the unexpected. After all, you're right. They're just outsiders, and they're so mysterious. Now that such a big thing has happened, we have to guard against them. In addition, to make things easier for you, from this moment on, all the divine envoys of our Pill Pagoda will be under your command. After the chief pagoda master finished speaking, he returned to his seat, looking quite tired. Gongsun Bei's eyes flashed as he bowed and said, this subordinate will do his best to complete the task. Also, go find Hauer and tell him that during this period of time, try not to go out if possible. I have a hunch that our central divine kingdom may be in chaos, the chief pagoda master said. Yes. Gongsun Bei bowed respectfully, turned around, and strode out of the attic. He closed the door and then looked at the sky. Chaos? Humph. Whoever dares to disturb the order of our central divine kingdom, I, Gongsun Bei, will not let him go, Gongsun Bei muttered, and a strong cold light burst out of his eyes. Then, he rushed into the sky and disappeared into the horizon like lightning. One pagoda, Elder Wu was pacing back and forth in front of the pagoda door, as if he was hesitating about something. Elder, what's the matter? A few disciples passed by and couldn't help but look at him suspiciously. Don't bother me, get lost. Elder Wu did not even bother to look at them as he shouted impatiently. Those disciples shrank their necks and hurriedly fled. Another moment passed. Elder Wu finally stopped and looked at the pagoda door in front of him, muttering, I don't care so much, I have to ask clearly. He took out his identity token, opened the pagoda door, and then turned into a stream of light and rushed into the Pill Pagoda. Soon, he came to the door of Alchemy Room 10 and reached out to knock on the door. After more than 10 breaths, the stone door didn't open. Elder Wu was a little impatient and was about to knock again. But at this moment, the stone door opened quickly. Qin Feiyang was standing behind the door. Elder Wu didn't beat around the bush and said directly, Do you have time? There's something I'd like to ask you. Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Wu suspiciously before nodding and retreating to the side. Elder Wu entered the elixir refinement room. Qin Feiyang closed the stone door casually and asked with a smile, Elder, why do you seem a little uneasy? Elder Wu turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang with an extremely stern expression. Tell me honestly, did you guys have anything to do with the annihilation of Sky Scorpion tribe? Stunned, Qin Feiyang asked in surprise. You're saying that Sky Scorpion tribe was annihilated? You don't know? This time around, Elder Wu was the one who was at a loss. After all this time, this guy didn't know? Furthermore, Qin Feiyang's first reaction didn't seem like he was faking it. I don't know. I've been cultivating all this while. I just came to the main pagoda and I don't have any friends. That's why no one told me. Elder, you're not joking, right? Qin Feiyang asked. I'm not in the mood to joke with you. This matter has already become a hot topic in the city. Everyone knows about it. Elder Wu sighed. Who did it? So powerful that even the Sky Scorpion tribe was annihilated. Awesome. Qin Feiyang was extremely surprised, but at the same time, there was a hint of admiration on his face. I just went to the main pagoda to inquire about the situation. It's said that the culprit is Qin Feiyang's accomplice, that mysterious woman. Moreover, when that woman massacred the Sky Scorpion tribe, the people of the Mu clan saw it with their own eyes. Elder Wu said. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and smiled. I've also heard of Qin Feiyang's deeds in the 9 regions. He's indeed a lawless lord. Has anyone ever praised themselves? If Mu Qing was here, she would definitely despise him. You can still laugh. Elder Wu rolled his eyes at him and said, to be honest, before this, I've been suspecting you and Qin Dai. This. Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly said, Elder, you can't say such things. You can't blame me for this. After all, I just came to ask for your help yesterday, and the Sky Scorpion tribe was annihilated at night. If it were someone else, they would also suspect you. However, now I can be sure that this matter has nothing to do with you. Elder Wu chuckled and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Elder is wise. Don't flatter me. Listen to my advice. No matter what relationship you have with Willow Divine Representative, you'd better be honest in the main pagoda in the future. Elder Wu said with a serious expression. I will remember. Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wu smiled and said, Then I'll take my leave first. Take care. I won't see you off. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said with a smile. Elder Wu turned around and opened the stone door. He then turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and said, You probably don't know about the martial arts treasury, right? Every new disciple has a chance to enter for free. You and Qin Dai should take some time to go and take a look. If you are lucky, you might even find a perfect battle art. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wu smiled and then left with his hands behind his back. I didn't expect that old man to be so suspicious. Qin Feiyang mumbled and waved his hand to close the stone door, then entered the ancient castle again. That Elder Wu seems to care about you. Inside the ancient castle, Lu Hong looked up at Qin Feiyang with a charming smile on her face. He's indeed a good person. However, I can also see that he's very loyal to the main pagoda. If he knew that I had something to do with all this, he definitely wouldn't have such an attitude. Let's not talk about this person. Anyway, he's just a passerby in my life. We won't have much interaction. But I really need to find time to take a look at the martial arts treasury. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Lu Hong said with a smile, Then I'll congratulate you in advance for finding a perfect battle art. How can a perfect battle art be so easy to find? Even if I find it, it might not be suitable for me to cultivate. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He walked to the altar and calmed his heart to copy the Kilb formula. Chapter 881. Just a month after Qin Feiyang went into seclusion, Li He finally announced the auction of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. The name Juku Yellow Dragon Pill was very unfamiliar in the Central Divine Kingdom, so everyone was very confused. What kind of pill was this? But when Li He announced the effect of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, there was no suspense, and people were excited again. Even the extermination of the Scorpion tribe was temporarily suppressed by this matter. Everyone knew that warriors, martial artists could use the red fire glass pill to increase their realm. But the War Emperor and War King needed to cultivate by themselves, and there was no shortcut. So, the appearance of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill completely broke the world's understanding of pills. So, there were also people who voiced their doubts. But when Li He said that he had already found someone to test the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, there were no more doubts. Because the trading pavilion would not lie. Since Li He said it was possible, then it must be possible. On the day of the auction, all the major tribes and disciples of the main tower rushed into the trading pavilion in the North City. The 4 major districts of the Divine City were originally very prosperous. But now the North City was more than many times more prosperous than the other 3 districts. Every street was basically packed to the brim. And the stewards of the trading pavilion in the other 3 districts, after hearing this news, immediately sent a message to Li He, asking him the source of the Juku yellow dragon pill. Of course, Fu Anshan was also included. But in the face of their inquiry, Li He did not say anything. This caused the 3 stewards to become anxious. The effect of the Juku yellow dragon pill was really too amazing. If they did not quickly think of a solution, the position of Deputy Pavilion Master would probably be Li He. Because, when the Pavilion Master was selecting a Deputy Pavilion Master, the first thing he looked at was whether or not he could bring more benefits to the trading pavilion. And the appearance of the Juku yellow dragon pill to the trading pavilion not only brought wealth, but also quickly raised the status of the trading pavilion in the Forgotten Continent. So, because of this Juku yellow dragon pill, Li He would change from the person with the lowest chance to the person with the highest chance. Fu Anshan and the other 2 stewards would not agree to this kind of thing. They were also determined to get the position of Deputy Pavilion Master. Therefore, they were now thinking of ways to inquire about the source of the Juku yellow dragon pill. As long as they could find the person who refined the Juku yellow dragon pill and form a partnership, the situation would instantly reverse. But, no matter how they investigated, and even sent people to spy on Li He, they didn't find anything. This person who refined the 9 songs yellow dragon pill was like a mystery. It was hard to see the person in person. Of course, they couldn't give up just like that. As for Li He, he was naturally overjoyed. However, his happiness did not last long. Because, ever since the first Juku yellow dragon pill was auctioned off, everyone was asking when the next one would be auctioned off. Even the Pavilion Master, who had not appeared for a long time, and the Vice Pavilion Master, who was nearing the end of his life, had gone to him one after another to ask about this matter. This gave Li He a headache. He also repeatedly went to Fatso and Yinwei, hoping to meet Qin Feiyang. The meeting with Qin Feiyang was fake. The real thing was that he wanted the 9 tunes yellow dragon pill. But every time Fatso told him that Qin Feiyang was in seclusion, and no one was to disturb him before he came out, Li He had no choice but to wait quietly. Because right now, Qin Feiyang was the owner of the transaction pavilion. He couldn't afford to offend him. And after the 2nd month of Qin Feiyang's seclusion, the chief pagoda master also issued an order. He ordered Lu Xingfeng, who was stationed in the 9th area, to lead people back to the chief pagoda. Because in his opinion, if the Scorpion tribe was really exterminated by the mysterious woman, then Qin Feiyang must have already sneaked into the central divine kingdom, and there was no point in continuing to guard. After Lu Xingfeng returned, he also went to the first pagoda to find Qin Feiyang, wanting to get his identity token back. But when he learned that Qin Feiyang was in seclusion, he did not disturb him. Although Qin Feiyang and the Mu family had an irreconcilable hatred, but to snatch the heavenly star flame, he still had to rely on Qin Feiyang. And to snatch the heavenly star flame, the first condition was to enter the Holy Land. So, he also hoped that Qin Feiyang could concentrate on cultivation and break through to the Battle Saint realm as soon as possible. Half a year after Qin Feiyang's seclusion, in the most remote place of the Central Divine Kingdom, there was a majestic mountain range. In the mountain, ferocious beasts ran rampant. There was even the aura of emperor beasts. This was a forbidden area of the Central Divine Kingdom, and even battle emperors did not dare to casually step into this place. And at the end of the mountain range was an endless sea. Boom! Splash! Above the sea, the wind whistled, and huge waves covered the sky and the earth, hitting the shore with deafening sounds. This was the endless sea, a place of death that made people tremble in fear. But at this moment, an old man in white came riding the wind and waves. He had white hair and a white beard, and he looked like an immortal, exuding an otherworldly aura. Not long after, he flew out of the endless sea, stood above the shore, and turned to look at the rolling waves of the sea. "It's justice, Oso." A moment later, he muttered to himself, with a trace of disdain for the endless sea in his eyes. Then he turned and flew toward the mountain range. Boom! As soon as he entered the mountain range, a terrifying emperor aura erupted from the mountain stream. Then, a huge beast rushed into the sky, blocking in front of the old man in white. It was a dragon. Its body was as big as a mountain, and its body was covered with scales. Its ferocious aura was unparalleled. Get lost. The old man in white raised his eyebrows. How dare you? The dragon was full of hostility, and its emperor aura covered all directions. You don't know what's good for you. The old man in white's eyes turned cold. He raised his hand and pointed in the air, and an invisible force immediately rushed toward the dragon. It actually has a divine aura. Are you a deity? The dragon's eyes widened, and it was extremely surprised. The old man in white did not speak, and his eyes were cold and piercing. That invisible force surged and directly killed the dragon, and blood splattered in the sky. A warlord-level beast was killed just like that. This was simply unheard of. When the other beasts hiding in the mountain range saw this scene, they all crawled on the ground and trembled. After killing the dragon, the old man in white did not stop. He streaked across the sky and quickly disappeared at the end of the mountain range. In the blink of an eye, a whole year passed. In the ancient castle, early in the morning, Qin Feiyang, who was concentrating on copying the kill word technique, trembled his arm, and the last stroke blossomed with a resplendent bloodlight, dyeing the entire castle. At the same time, a powerful aura rushed out from Qin Feiyang's body. His aura soared crazily. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation had broken through the shackles and reached the 9-star War Master. Finally done? Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts all opened their eyes at the same time and looked at Qin Feiyang. In this year's time, Qin Feiyang had only done 2 things: refining battle chi pills, copying the kill word technique. It could be said that this was the most hardworking Qin Feiyang had ever been, and also the longest time that Qin Feiyang had been in seclusion. The heavens did not disappoint those who were willing. He had finally grasped the kill word technique. Buzz. Rumble. On the iron book, the word kill was like an iron hook and silver stroke, emitting a terrifying killing intent. Enveloped by this killing intent, Lu Hong and the others couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. They even felt that the word kill was like the incarnation of a death god. Whoosh! Suddenly, the word kill turned into a stream of light and entered between Qin Feiyang's eyebrows. Boom! Qin Feiyang's body trembled, and a shocking killing intent roared out from his body. At the same time, his long hair, skin, and eyes quickly turned blood red, filled with a ruthless and cold aura. But this was only secondary. The most important thing was that in the center of his eyebrows, a bloody word kill had appeared, as if it was condensed from blood. At this moment, he was like a demon god from hell, causing people to tremble in fear. Even Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts felt an uncontrollable fear in their hearts when they saw Qin Feiyang's current appearance. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also carefully experiencing the feeling the kill word technique gave him. He felt it. This kill word technique was even more terrifying than what was recorded. For example, at this moment, that killing intent was actually corroding his mind, as if it wanted to control his body. Moreover, he had the urge to kill someone right now. He couldn't help but suspect that if he killed more people, would this kill word technique completely control his mind in the end? If it did, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Because if that was the case, he would become an emotionless killing machine. It seemed that this kill word technique could only be used as a trump card. Unless it was a critical moment, it could not be used. After letting out a long breath, Qin Feiyang's mind stirred, and the word kill between his eyebrows disappeared. His appearance quickly returned to normal. The killing intent around his body also dissipated. Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts looked at each other and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Wolf King stood up and stared at the iron book. His eyes flickered as he said, "Quickly take a look at what the next divine art is." Qin Feiyang looked at the iron book and shook his head. "The next page can only be opened after I break through to the War King." "That's right. I almost forgot." Wolf King patted his forehead and said, "However, the last stroke of the kill word technique is really a waste of time. Look at me. I didn't do anything, and I've already broken through to the 9-star War Master." It laughed mischievously, its eyes filled with pride. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at it. Although Wolf King had the intention to show off, it was still the truth. But now, he didn't need to copy the 6-word divine arts for the time being. In the future, his cultivation speed would definitely not be slower than Wolf King's. Next, he swept his gaze towards Lu Hong, the winged snow eagle, and the other beasts. Lu Hong's cultivation had already broken through to the 3-star war master. The winged snow eagle had already reached the 2-star war saint. The pangolin's cultivation was even higher than Lu Hong's, and it had now stepped into the 7-star war master. As for the black dragon snake, it could be said to have traveled 1,000 miles a day. In short, after this closed-door cultivation, everyone's strength had risen to a new level. You guys continue cultivating. I'll go out and take a look, Qin Feiyong said with a smile, then left the castle. A year had passed, and there was already a little dust in the pill refining room. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the stone door opened. Following that, gusts of wind blew. Not long later, the huge alchemy room was spotless. Qin Feiyong was about to close the stone door, but at this moment, a black-clothed youth appeared outside the door. This person's body was slender, his eyebrows were like swords, and his body emitted an astonishing sharpness. It was Mo Feng. As soon as you entered the main tower, you went into seclusion for an entire year. Junior brother Mu, you're really hardworking. Mo Feng sized up Qin Feiyong with a hint of astonishment in his eyes. With his eyesight, he could naturally tell that Qin Feiyong's aura was even stronger than before. Chapter 882. There's nothing I can do about it. The main pagoda is filled with talents and experts. With my talent, if I don't work hard, I will be eliminated sooner or later. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Mo Feng walked into the alchemy room and said, Junior brother Mu, there's no need to be so polite. With Junior brother Mu's current strength, you are already strong enough to dominate the disciples. Dominate? I'm afraid you're still far from it. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed, and asked suspiciously, I wonder why senior brother Mo is looking for me? It's nothing important. It's just that a while ago, senior brother Pei, he wanted to invite you to the Dragon Phoenix house for a drink. Seeing that you have been in seclusion, he didn't want to disturb you. Mo Feng said, Look at my memory, I actually forgot about this. Senior brother Mo, please help me tell senior brother Pei that we're really sorry. Qin Feiyong said. Senior brother Pei knew that you were in seclusion and didn't say anything, but now that you're out, you should have time, right? Mo Feng smiled. Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyong nodded repeatedly. Mo Feng said, Then how about we go to the Dragon Phoenix house tomorrow? This, Qin Feiyong hesitated for a moment, then nodded and smiled. Sure. Actually, he was not interested in the Dragon Phoenix house at all. However, the other party had invited him repeatedly, and if he still refused, then he would not know how to be a human being. Moreover, Pei was the king of the One Tower and also a member of the Divine Python tribe. If he could build a good relationship with this person, it might be of help to him in the future. All right, I won't disturb you anymore. See you tomorrow. Mo Feng smiled and turned to leave. Qin Feiyong walked to the door, watched Mo Feng leave, then closed the stone door and took out the image crystal. Buzz. A moment later, Fatso's shadow appeared. After sizing up Fatso for a moment, Qin Feiyong asked in surprise, You've also broken through the 9-star War Master? Of course. Fatso said proudly. That's not right. Aren't you investigating? Why do you still have time to cultivate? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Even if we want to investigate, that person has to show up first. But in the past year, that person has not appeared even once, Fatso said. This, Qin Feiyong frowned. I asked Li He as well. In the past, this person would come once every half a year. But now, he hasn't come for an entire year. Fat Lord feels like. At this point, Fatty's brows furrowed into a knot. Feel what? Qin Feiyong asked. Something doesn't feel right. Do you think this person knows that we're investigating him? Fatso said. Impossible. Qin Feiyong shook his head resolutely. They were the only ones who knew about it. Furthermore, Li He would never leak the news, so how could the other party know? Fat Lord was also thinking that it was impossible. But after thinking about it carefully, Fat Lord felt that it was not impossible. Fatso pondered. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang asked. Think about it. If this person knows that we're in the central divine kingdom and that we're in disguise, what will he do? He must be afraid of being investigated by us, so he won't come to buy herbs anymore. Fatso guessed. Why don't you just say that it's the Mu family? Why are you beating around the bush? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Because only the Mu family knew that they had entered the central divine kingdom. Fat Lord is getting more and more convinced that the Mu family is the descendants of Mu Tianya. Fatso said, let's continue to wait. If this person doesn't appear after a while, we can target the Mu family. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, okay. Fatso nodded. Qin Feiyang said, did anything else happen during this time? No. Fatso shook his head and said, if you want to talk about it, there's a man named Gongsun Bei in the central tower. He's looking for the whereabouts of the mysterious lady. Of course, he's also looking for you. That's not important. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. By the way, the remnants of the Scorpion tribe are also looking for you like crazy. And Li He, I haven't seen you for a year. That old man is going crazy now. Fatso smiled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Then come here now. I'll give you a few Juku yellow dragon pills. Okay. Fatso smiled and opened a portal, directly appearing next to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang also immediately entered the castle, took out 5 Juku yellow dragon pills, handed them to Fatso, and said, tell him that only 1 pill can be auctioned every month. Understood. Fatso nodded. After putting away the Juku yellow dragon pills, he looked at Qin Feiyang again, showing a hesitant look. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Fatso hesitated for a while, then summoned his courage and said, I want to enter the central tower. Huh. Qin Feiyang was stunned and puzzled. Why do you want to enter the central tower? This, that. Fatso seemed to have something that was hard to say and couldn't say it for a long time. But Qin Feiyang noticed that Fatso's expression was a little awkward. Forget it if you don't want to say it. Qin Feiyang said lightly. I'll say it, I'll say it. Fatso quickly looked at Qin Feiyang and said, do you remember the woman we met when we first came to the Central Divine Kingdom? I remember. Qin Feiyang nodded, then looked stunned and said with a smile, I understand. You want to enter the Central Tower because of her? Yes. This year, I've been asking about her. According to my inquiries, she's the daughter of the Heavenly Spiral Tribe's leader, called Chu Xian. She's also a disciple of the Warrior Mountain. Fatso said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He had already investigated her family background. This guy was quite attentive. Qin Feiyang asked, is the Heavenly Spiral Tribe also a super tribe? No, it's just a small tribe in the Central Divine Kingdom. Her parents are only 9-star battle saints. Fatso said, they're still stronger than you. Why aren't you worthy of her? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Fatso's face darkened, and he said angrily, are you still my brother? Do you have to hit me like this? If you say this again, I'll be angry. Okay. It's my fault. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand, and his face suddenly became serious and said, then did you find out who she used to be with? Yes. You must be very interested in this person. It's the king of the 3rd peak of the Warrior Mountain, Guofeng. Fatso said with a cold light in his eyes. So it's him. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and said, then why did they break up? According to my inquiries, it's because Guofeng fell in love with a woman in the Divine Python tribe. This woman is called Pei Yu, and it's said that she's Pei Yi's cousin. When I was investigating this matter, I also heard that Guofeng didn't like Pei Yu at all. It's just because the Divine Python tribe behind her is a super tribe like the Scorpion tribe. Fatso sneered. Pei Yi's cousin? That's interesting. The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth curled up slightly. I also heard that Pei Yu has never agreed to Guofeng's pursuit, and it's said that she doesn't like him at all. She even hates him. Fatso said. Got it. After you're done with the matters at hand, go and look for Elder Wu for the assessment. When the time comes, don't come to the Pill Pagoda. Go directly to the Warrior Mountain. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Thank you, boss. Fatso was overjoyed. Let's go back to the transaction pavilion. When you're free, you have to work hard to cultivate. Although the Scorpion tribe was annihilated, Guofeng is definitely not a simple character since he can become the king of the third peak. He's not that easy to deal with. Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. Him? Fat Lord is nothing in his eyes. Fatso smiled in disdain, and then opened the teleportation gate. By the way, how far have Chu Xian and Guofeng progressed? Qin Feiyong suddenly asked. If they had already developed to the point of intimate contact, he would persuade Fatso to let go. Don't worry about that. She's not the kind of woman who would mess around. She's still chaste even now. Fatso chuckled. Qin Feiyong nodded and waved his hand. Go. After Fatso left, Qin Feiyong felt a headache coming on. Fatso's current talent was definitely top-notch. After all, he had opened the door of potential. In terms of that alone, he was more than enough to be a good match for Chu Xian. However, his physique was the only thing that no one dared to compliment. It seemed that Fatso would have to put in a lot of effort to win Chu Xian's heart. Of course, as a brother, he definitely wouldn't stand by and watch. But in the end, whether the two of them could be together or not would still depend on fate. North City, Transaction Pavilion. In the lounge, Li He sat in front of the desk weakly, his old face full of worry. Swoosh. Suddenly, a beautiful white figure appeared out of thin air. It was Li He's granddaughter, Li Yin. Grandpa, you can't be like this. You're listless all day. If the pavilion master sees you, he'll definitely be angry. Li Yin walked to the desk and lowered her head to look at Li He. Her white forehead wrinkled slightly. Let me tell you, if I can't get the Juku Yellow Dragon pill, the pavilion master will really be angry, Li He said weakly. Li Yin said helplessly, you can't be anxious. I went to the first pagoda to inquire. This person is indeed in seclusion. Seclusion? Seclusion? He has been in seclusion for a year. Isn't that enough? This little bastard. It's too torturous. Li He slammed his palm on the desk, blowing his beard and glaring at him. He was on the verge of exploding. Looking at the current Li He, Li Yan's beautiful eyes flickered. She couldn't bear it and said, why don't I go find him? Don't. He's now the little ancestor of our transaction pavilion. We can't afford to offend him. Li He said, his heart full of grievances. Although he wasn't some big shot, he was still a war king. How could he be so easily taken advantage of by a brat who had just arrived at the central divine kingdom? Where was the heavens? My boss isn't as old as you say. He can't afford to be the ancestor of your transaction pavilion. At this moment, a teasing voice sounded from outside the door, and then Fatso pushed the door open and entered. What do you mean? Back then, you guys agreed to cooperate with my grandfather. Now that my grandfather wants a Juku Yellow Dragon pill, I have to beg him. Isn't it a bit too much? Chapter 883. I'm a little angry that you said that. As Fatso spoke, he took out a Juku Yellow Dragon pill from his Chinkoan bag and waved it in front of them. Seeing the Juku Yellow Dragon pill, Li He immediately perked up. He got up and rushed to Fatso in a hurry, reaching out to grab it. Wait. Fatso shook his hand and quickly dodged. What's wrong? Li He was puzzled, his eyes full of desire. Fatso shook his head and sighed. Your granddaughter's previous attitude made me very dissatisfied. Yin, apologize. Li He immediately looked at Li Yin and said, I apologize? Li Yin was stunned and glared at Li He angrily. Why? They are in the wrong. Can I say it? Oh. Li He hurriedly ran to Li Yin and whispered, Yes, you're not wrong. But for Grandpa's future, you have to compromise. This is a matter of principle. I'm determined not to apologize. Li Yin didn't buy it at all. She turned her head to the side and pouted, very unhappy. Li He looked at Li Yin, then at Fatty, his old face filled with helplessness. Fatso couldn't help but laugh. Then, he acted very generous and open-minded, saying, Forget it. I'm too lazy to argue with an unruly woman like you. Take it. Then, he threw the Juku Yellow Dragon pill to Li He. Thank you. Li He grabbed the pill and thanked him repeatedly. Then, he lowered his head and looked at the Juku yellow dragon pill, his eyes shining. However, Li Yin didn't accept it. He actually said that she was unruly? Wasn't this just making trouble for no reason? Seeing that the situation was not good, Li He hurriedly put away the pill and persuaded, Yin, can you say a few words less? Grandpa is begging you. Grandpa. Li Yin raised her eyebrows and looked at Li He. What's wrong? Li He asked. Li Yin said, I found that you've changed. You've become a little spineless. Li He's face darkened and he said angrily, Go away. How can you talk to Grandpa like that? You're rude. That's right. Li Yin snorted through her nose. To be despised by his own granddaughter, Li He felt bitter in his heart. Dong. But at this moment, there was a knock on the door. Li He sorted out his emotions, put away the Juku yellow dragon pill, and returned to his seat, saying, Come in. Li Yin and Fatso also stood behind Li He. Fatso came here to work, so he had to act like a professional in front of outsiders. The door was pushed open and a black-clothed guard stood at the door and said respectfully, Sir, Lord Fu Anshan requests an audience. Again? Li He frowned. In this 1 year, who knew how many times Fu Anshan had already come? Every time he came, it was for no other reason than to inquire about the source of the Juku yellow dragon pill. The guard asked, Then, will you see him or not? We all work in the transaction pavilion. We see each other all the time. How can I reject you? Let him in. Li He sighed as a wisp of helplessness appeared between his brows. Yes. The guard turned around and left. Don't say anything later. This Fu Anshan is very shrewd. If we're not careful, he might discover something. Li He turned to look at Fatty and Hay and whispered to them. The two of them nodded. Brother Li, I haven't seen you for a few days. How have you been? Not long after, Fu Anshan came. He stood at the door and looked at Li He with a smile, as if they were old friends who had met for many years. They were extremely affectionate. In his hand, he was carrying an exquisite gift box. I'm very well. Li He got up and smiled, saying, Come in and sit. Fu Anshan walked into the lounge, turned around and closed the door. Then, he walked in front of Li He and placed the gift box in his hand on the desk. This is? Li He glanced at the gift box, then raised his head and looked at Fu Anshan suspiciously. He, this must be a gift for your grandfather. Fatso laughed secretly and sent a voice transmission to Li Yin. This person's skin is so thick that it's indescribable. You'll get used to it. Li Yin replied, her tone full of disdain. Brother, don't you like tea? That's why I specially went to prepare some top-grade tea leaves. I picked them myself, and I picked them out piece by piece. Brother, don't mind. Fu Anshan chuckled. How can I accept this? It's too expensive. I can't accept it. Li He hurriedly waved his hand, looking flattered. In fact, he knew in his heart that Fu Anshan must have bought these tea leaves at the market. What picking them personally, what picking them out piece by piece, they were all hypocritical words. But no matter what, he still had to do it on the surface. This? Fu Anshan frowned and pretended to be angry. Brother, if you don't accept it, you won't give me any face. But whether he was pretending to be angry or not, he didn't know. All right, then I'll kindly accept it. Li He looked at the gift box and finally nodded. Sir, wait a moment. But at this time, Fatso said, What's wrong? Li He turned his head and looked at him suspiciously. I'll help you taste it first to see if it's poisonous. Fatso said respectfully, walked to the desk, and directly opened the gift box. Seeing this, both Li He and Li Yin were astonished. Then, the grandfather and grandson's faces couldn't help but twitch. Not only did he suspect others, he even directly checked the goods in front of others. How could Fu Anshan endure this? The grandfather and grandson glanced at Fu Anshan. Sure enough, at this moment, Fu Anshan's face was extremely gloomy, and the way he looked at Fatso was as if he wanted to pull out his tendons and skin him. Fatso turned a blind eye to it, took out a piece of tea, put it in his mouth and chewed. A moment later, he spat out the tea and nodded. This tea is indeed good. Then he looked at Li He and bowed. Sir, it's not poisonous. You can rest assured and accept it. Li He couldn't help but want to laugh, but he didn't dare to. He held it in and nodded. But Fu Anshan was about to explode. He stared fixedly at the fatty and said, "If this old man remembers correctly, you are the person who was following Qin Dai and his companion a year ago, right?" "That's right." Fatso nodded. Fu Anshan said in a deep voice, "Then why are you here now?" "My talent is not good enough, and the people of the main tower don't like me, so I can only find a job to make a living." "What? Do you have a problem with that?" Fatso teased. Fu Anshan clenched his fists, and his joints made a cracking sound. Seeing this, Li He knew that something was wrong and hurriedly scolded Fatso. "Who gave you the guts to speak to Steward Fu like that? Apologize to Steward Fu, or pack up your things and get out of here." Fatso shrunk his neck and hurriedly bowed. "It's this little one who doesn't understand etiquette. Please be magnanimous and don't bother with this little one." "Humph." Fu Anshan snorted and looked at Li He. "Old Li, let's not beat around the bush. I don't have any other purpose. I just want to know who refined the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. When I worked with that person, I agreed in advance that I couldn't reveal his identity to anyone. Even when the Pavilion Master and Deputy Pavilion Master came to ask me, I didn't say anything. So, I can only apologize to you." Li He said. Fu Anshan raised his eyebrows, and the anger in his heart almost exploded. But he endured it and said, "Then when are you going to auction the second Juku Yellow Dragon Pill?" Li He hesitated. He wanted to tell Fu Anshan that he hadn't thought about it yet. But before he could speak, Fu Anshan said, "Don't tell me you haven't gotten the second Juku Yellow Dragon Pill from him? You can't be this efficient." Li He narrowed his eyes and said, "What are you trying to say?" "With the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, the next Deputy Pavilion Master will definitely be you. However, if you don't accumulate enough points, you might become the same as before," Fu Anshan said indifferently. Anyone who knew what was going on would be able to tell that there was a hint of mockery in his words. "Thank you for your concern. But in my opinion, it's not a big deal to become the same as before. In short, I won't be like some people, showing a humble face all day long to curry favor with this and that," Li He said with a faint smile. "What did you say?" Fu Anshan's face darkened, and there was a fierce light in his eyes. He turned hostile. Fatso laughed secretly. "You can't be nice to people like Fu Anshan, do you understand?" Li Yin sneered secretly. In the face of Fu Anshan's fierce eyes, Li He only smiled indifferently and said, "You know what I'm talking about. Okay, we'll see. I'd like to see how you climb to the position of Deputy Pavilion Master without the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill." Fu Anshan smiled coldly and left in a huff. "Wait, I really don't have the fortune to enjoy this gift of yours. You'd better take it back. Let me show you something else. You'll definitely be surprised." Li He waved his hand, and the gift box on the table flew toward Fu Anshan. Fu Anshan stopped and turned to catch the gift box. Then, he looked at Li He and immediately saw Li He take out a pill from his Cosmos bag. "What? Juku Yellow Dragon Pill?" Fu Anshan froze on the spot. "I wanted to tell you before that I already got one, but unfortunately, you didn't let me. How is it? How do you feel after seeing this Juku Yellow Dragon Pill?" Li He said playfully. This was the real-life version of a slap in the face. Fu Anshan's face was extremely interesting. "All right, I won't send you off. If you have time in the future, don't come here, because it won't help you in any way. You'd better go and curry favor with the Pavilion Master. Maybe one day, when he's in a good mood, he'll directly let you succeed the position of Deputy Pavilion Master. When that time comes, I hope you'll take care of me. By the way, I have to thank you properly." Li He put away the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill and said with a smile. There was a reason for him to say thank you. Because back then, the first person Qin Feiyang looked for was not him, but Fu Anshan. If Fu Anshan's attitude was better at that time, and he was not so arrogant, then the person who was cooperating with Qin Feiyang now would definitely be Fu Anshan, and naturally, Li He would have nothing to do with it. Therefore, Li He was extremely grateful to Fu Anshan. But Fu Anshan did not know this. He only thought that Li He was mocking him. "You're good." After saying this, he grabbed the gift box and turned to leave angrily. Of course. Chapter 884. Haha, your face slapping is really satisfying. After Fu Anshan left, Fatso immediately gave Li He a thumbs up and laughed. Li He was also full of smiles. If it was in the past, even if he knew that the other party did not come with good intentions, he would not fall out with them like today. But now, he had the confidence and was not afraid. Suddenly, Li He frowned and said, "Say, when Fu Anshan sees you working here, will he think that it was you who gave me the 9-chew yellow dragon pill? Would he be so smart?" Fatso looked down on him. "That's true." Li Yin nodded. "You guys, don't underestimate him. Although he is a little arrogant, to be able to become the manager of the North City Trading Pavilion, it is enough to show that he is not a stupid person." Li He shook his head and smiled, but there was still a trace of worry between his brows. "Don't worry, he looks down on us so much. He won't suspect us at all," Fatso said confidently. "That makes sense." Li He nodded, feeling much more relieved. Li Yin looked at Li He, then at Fatso, her eyes flickering. "Why are you looking at me like that?" When Fatso noticed Li Yan's abnormality, he immediately became vigilant. Li Yin did not say anything. Fatso swallowed his saliva and said, "Don't tell me you've taken a fancy to me? Let me tell you, I'm already a man with a famous flower. Don't be greedy for my beauty." Scram. Li Yan's face darkened on the spot. She had never seen such a narcissistic person. She asked, "Has your boss come out of seclusion?" "Do you still need to ask? If he hasn't come out of seclusion, where am I going to find the 9-chew yellow dragon pill?" Fatso looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Li Yin raised her eyebrows and said angrily, "Can't you have a better attitude when you speak?" "Is there a problem with my attitude?" Fatso looked at her seriously. "I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I'm going to find your boss." Li Yin snorted, turned around and opened a teleportation gate. Ugh. Fatso was stunned. He chuckled and said, "So you've taken a fancy to my boss. Let me tell you, my boss is also taken, and there are more than one. So you don't have to waste your time." Then he added, "Besides, with your looks, my boss wouldn't even fancy you." "You?" Li Yin stared at him angrily, her eyes spitting fire. Why was this bastard's mouth so cheap? It was simply infuriating. Meanwhile, Li He shook his head helplessly as he looked at the two of them. Back to Qin Feiyang. After Fatso left with the Juku yellow dragon pill, he also left the alchemy room. "Senior brother, how do I get to the martial arts treasury?" After walking out of the first pagoda, he grabbed a young man and asked with a smile, "It's you." The young man was a little angry at Qin Feiyang's rudeness, but when he saw Qin Feiyang's face, he became polite. Because now, everyone knew that Qin Feiyang had the oracle token in his hands. He also truthfully told Qin Feiyang the location of the martial arts treasury. Qin Feiyang thanked him, then rushed into the sky and rushed into the depths. According to the young man, the martial arts treasury was near the fighting arena, adjacent to the resource hall. And the guardian of the martial arts treasury was an old man surnamed Wang, whose strength was unfathomable. Everyone called him Elder Wang. A moment later, a tall stone pagoda entered Qin Feiyang's sight. The stone pagoda was modeled with a total of 10 floors. The door of the pagoda was closed, and Elder Wang was sitting cross-legged in front of the stone door. When he saw Elder Wang in person, Qin Feiyang was quite surprised. Which of the disciples and elders of the main pagoda wasn't dressed in bright clothes? However, this old man was dressed in shabby linen clothes, and his white hair was messy. Not only did he look ordinary, but he also gave people a sense of sloppiness. "Greetings, Elder Wang." In front of the stone pagoda, there was a small square. Qin Feiyang landed on the square, walked in front of Elder Wang, and bowed. Although this old man looked ordinary, he didn't dare to underestimate him in the slightest. Because if he was just an ordinary person, why would the main pagoda master let him guard the martial arts treasury? One had to know. No matter where, the martial arts treasury was the most important place. Elder Wang slowly opened his eyes, looked at Qin Feiyang a few times, and stretched out his hand. "Give me the identity token." His tone was very calm, and his attitude was also very cold. Qin Feiyang took out the identity token and handed it to Elder Wang with both hands. Elder Wang looked at it, then returned it to Qin Feiyang and said, You only have half an hour. Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wang waved his hand, and the stone door behind him slowly opened. Qin Feiyang glanced at Elder Wang, then strode into the stone pagoda. Boom! The stone door also closed. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the stone door, then turned back to look at the front. In front of him was a completely sealed stone room, about a few feet in size. The four walls were neatly lined with black shelves. These shelves were not made of iron, but of stone, exuding an ancient aura. On the stone shelves, there were gray stone boxes, many of which were covered with a layer of dust. At this moment, there was a woman standing in front of one of the stone shelves, glancing at the gray stone boxes on the shelf, but her back was facing Qin Feiyang, so he couldn't see her face. Apart from these stone shelves and that woman, there was nothing else and no one else. It seemed very empty and cold. Qin Feiyang glanced at them one by one, then turned his head to the side. Just beside him, there was a staircase. The staircase was also made of stone, leading to the second floor. But at the entrance of the second floor, there was a closed stone door. Can I go to the second floor? Qin Feiyang whispered. Yes, you can't go up. At this moment, the woman said without turning her head. Qin Feiyang was stunned, walked to the woman's side, and looked at her face. At this moment, he froze. This woman, fair and beautiful, wore a snow-white dress and had a tall and exquisite figure. A pair of big eyes, crystal clear like black gems, shining with a charming light. Her long black hair draped over her fragrant shoulders and exuded a faint fragrance. In short, this woman was very beautiful. However, this face was also very familiar. It was the woman Fatso fell in love with at first sight, Chu Xian. What a coincidence. Qin Feiyang muttered secretly and said with a smile, should I call you Junior Sister Chu Xian or Senior Sister Chu Xian? Chu Xian had never looked at him. Hearing this, she was stunned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. It's you. At this moment, her beautiful eyebrows raised, and there was a trace of disgust in her eyes. This made Qin Feiyang puzzled. First, he had never offended her. Second, he had never bullied her. Why did he look at her like that? Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, is there a misunderstanding between us? Humph, have you forgotten? A year ago, what did your companion say about me? At that time, I was abandoned, but there is no need to explain it, right? In short, none of you stinky men are good. Chu Xian snorted coldly and turned to walk away. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. The companion that Chu Xian referred to was undoubtedly Fatso. Miss, you have indeed misunderstood. At that time, my companion was just being kind and wanted to comfort you. But before Qin Feiyang could finish, Chu Xian suddenly turned his head and said, I don't need anyone to comfort me. Okay. I won't say any more. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, his forehead hurting. Originally, he wanted to help Fatso save some of his image, but he didn't expect this woman to have a bad temper. He didn't ask for a rebuff and turned his head to glance at the stone boxes on the shelf. These stone boxes were all the same size and shape, but there were no signs or words on them. But obviously, inside the stone boxes, there must be jade slips. Then there was a problem. There were no signs. How could he choose? Purely by luck? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment. Then, he grabbed a stone box. Kindly remind you, think carefully before opening the stone box. At this time, Chu Xian's voice sounded. Why? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Because once you open it, you can't choose another stone box. Chu Xian said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded, looked at the stone box in his hand, and then put it back. Then, he walked to Chu Xian. You kindly remind me, which shows that you are also a reasonable person. So, you can't hate all of us men because of Guofeng. This is very unfair to us, you know? Qin Feiyang laughed. Don't mention him to me. Chu Xian said, her voice cold and piercing. Okay. I won't talk about him. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly, turned his head to look at the stairs, and asked curiously, how do I go up to the second floor? You have been in the main pagoda for a year, and you still don't know? Chu Xian frowned. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I have been in seclusion for a year and didn't inquire about this situation. Seclusion for a year? Chu Xian looked at him in surprise and explained. There are a total of 10 floors in the martial arts treasure house. Except for the first time, which is free, you need contribution points to enter. What is contribution points? Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked. Chu Xian said, contribution points are a virtual number, similar to the form of currency. Then how do you get contribution points? Qin Feiyong asked. Go outside and capture beasts alive. Beasts of different cultivation levels can get corresponding contribution points, Chu Xian said. There is such a thing? Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked again. Why do you have to capture them alive? Can't they be dead? What's the difference? Of course there is a difference. Capturing them alive can prove that you captured them with your own ability, and those who died may be killed by you, but others may also help you kill them. Most of the disciples in our main pagoda are people with family backgrounds, so the higher-ups have to guard against this. The reason why you need contribution points to enter the martial arts treasure house is that the higher-ups use an alternative method to stimulate the fighting spirit of us disciples, as well as to cultivate our actual combat experience and combat awareness. Meng Xian explained. I see. Qin Feiyong suddenly understood. Indeed, you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.